Good afternoon, everyone. Historic Preservation Commission, April 15th, 2024. It's just a couple minutes after 6 o'clock. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. If any member has reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of this act, they should state so at this time. Pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Copeland.
Here.
Mr. Carroll. Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Bisagno.
Here.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Hammerin. Thank you.
The minutes, March 18th, 2024. There's been some updates to that, so I would suggest we defer those until next meeting.
I move we defer the minutes to the next meeting.
Second?
I'm sorry, who was the second on that?
John?
Thank you. Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Okay by me.
Ms. Bisagno.
Abstain.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolutions. Waters, 1218 New York Avenue, Block 1131, lots 11 and 12. Resolution 2024-02. Adidas, Inc., doing business as Lemire Beachfront Resort, 1317 Beach Avenue, Block 1146, Lot 6 through 24, Resolution 2024-03. Lord, 1239 New York Avenue, Block 1132, Lot 27, Resolution 2024-04. Mullock, 808 Corgi Street, Block 1090, Lot 2, Resolution 2024-05. Izowski, 911 Madison Avenue, Block 1111, Lot 12, Resolution 2024-06. And Drake, 322 Congress Street, Block 1031, Lot 60, Resolution 2024-07. Do I have a motion to accept those resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Carroll. Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes, except abstain on 325 Congress.
Thank you. Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno.
Abstain.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Applications approved or denied in review. There were two additions. Hubbard and Feist, 1304 New York Avenue, Block 1147-13. This was a contributing property with a paver driveway amendment. And another addition is Ken Kissling, 24 Stockton Place, Block 1062, Lot 1. This is a non-contributing, again, paver driveway walkway. They were added, and it's documented, and it's available online. Do I have a motion to accept the applications approved or denied in review?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Stevenson, seconded by Mr. Testa. Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes, with respect to all except the Mad Batter, from which I'll abstain.
Thank you. Ms. Bisagno.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick.
Yes, except for Congress Hall, which I will abstain.
Thank you.
Old business. The first one is probably not necessary and can be approved in review. This is the Macedonia Baptist Church. This was, we've heard several times, this was a very slight change on the railing. I would suggest we move on. There's no one here to represent that, and it's not necessary. So What do we have to do to do that?
Just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, this is deemed minor work that can be approved in review?
Yes.
It won't need a resolution then?
Right,
Okay.
yes, correct.
So we'll send it to the review committee.
It's been to review committee. It's an administrative issue. So if you want, we can take a motion and vote on this if you like. Maybe that would,
Well, just because we did on your
It's on.
changing the agenda before, I suppose we had a vote on it. I'm perfectly happy to have you remove it from the agenda, but,
That can be the motion.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll move to remove the Macedonia Baptist Church application from tonight's agenda and send it on to final passage by the review committee.
Second that?
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Carroll. Mr. Copeland.
yes,
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick.
Yes.
Thank you.
now before we get into the real agenda, there's a number of items on here. This time of year it gets very busy, and it is possible that we would go beyond 9:30. We cannot accept applications after 9:30. And also, if we're in the middle of an application at 10 o'clock, we have to stop. And so there is a chance that we may go over that. So some of you that are at the end of the agenda may want to volunteer to come in next month, and in exchange for that, we will put you on the top of the agenda. So that's an option for those of you who are late in the evening. We might go through this very quickly and not be a problem. Somewhere as the evening goes, if you have a change of heart and you see how we're doing, then you are welcome to raise your hand, and we'll put you on next month. Also, I would remind the group to, when you're not talking, to turn the mic off, so there's not any chatter or miscommunications on the tape. And also, I would remind you, when you talk, you might want to put it back on. First order of old business, Lawrence Prey Builders, 523 Bank Street, Block 1054, Lot 22. This is a non-contributing building. It's a new house. Hello.
Hello,
Name and relationship to the
Kevin
building?
Olant, project manager at Fenwick Architects.
Lawrence A. Prey from Lawrence A. Prey Builders.
Thank you. Take it away.
All right, we were here last month for 523 Bank Street. It's a new home on a vacant piece of ground that was subdivided. We received conceptual approval, and there was a couple of comments that you asked us to address, and this is now a set of construction drawings that have addressed those items. If you turn to the package to the C101 in the construction drawings, on the site, there was some discussion about the fences. It wasn't clear what was proposed, so we've tried to clarify that it's a 6-foot-high cedar fence in the rear of the house and a 4-foot fence along the driveway. And the driveway fence is solid, and the rear fence is 4-foot-high solid, and then it's pickets above that. There is a mistaken application on the material list. It should say cedar. It says it in the product data, but not on the material list. It should, so that was a mistake. That was changed, but then on page A3 in the package, it's calling it out as cedar, and that is the intent, cedar fencing. Unfinished
So your
cedar.
materials checklist should read
It should say
cedar
cedar.
instead of cellular PVC.
Correct. And then the other items had to do with windows and shutters. But you look at the front elevation, on sheet A201, the sheet 7 of the construction drawings. We have indicated that the shutters on the front are operable shutters with hinges, and they're also proportioned to properly close over the window opening. And then on the sides, we've added non-operable shutters to the sides, but those are also proportioned to the windows. And then the other one was we moved the one window on the stair landing from the side elevation to the front elevation. As far as I know, that was the only comments we had last month.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Anyone? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve this application as a final submission.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick? Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Shorter than your wait for last week.
Yes. Next order of old business, 17 South Broadway, block 1018 rather, lot 20. It's a contributing property and it's a new garage. Okay, oh, well, Catherine, would you
I have an exhibit I'd like to
tell us
pass
who
out.
you are?
Oh, my name is Catherine Lorenz. I'm the architect, and this is the owner, Mr. Drake.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Invested in the property in June of 2012, and we're excited to be working towards full-time residency here in the home. So one of the primary objectives to have a safe place for my vehicle. You can see, it's a classic. And so we want a safe place to keep it. And we were here in January of 23. And we engaged Catherine here to have the style of home match age of the, the type garage that we hope to find you folks satisfied. I'll turn it over to Catherine.
I passed out this exhibit because this is one of the main purposes of this building is a garage. And as you can see, this is a prize-winning car that is a 1969 GTO. And I'll get into more specifics about this, but I thought it adds a little interest to what we're doing. I'd like
Quarter
to...
mile in 13 seconds and 107 miles per hour. Just adding the interest.
I don't think this is the right time for us muscle car devotees to jump in, so.
Well, yes. I thought I would go over the drawings. I think that's the most important thing first to talk about, and then we can go back all about the style and the rendering of the building. So the first sheet shows you a site plan, and the site plan indicates the existing house, but it also indicates with these little dotted lines that there is a concrete pavers that are in the front of the house, and then in the backyard, the entire backyard is concrete. So part of what we're doing, in addition to building this new garage, is we're going to remove all of this concrete and pavers and bring this building back to the proper lot coverage. So if we ignore A01 and go to sheet A1.0. On the top of the sheet shows the new site plan. And so we're proposing to have brick ribbons for the driveway up to the garage, grass in between, a brick entrance to the garage, and then we are proposing a two-story garage in the rear of the house, and the rest of the backyard will be roses and flowers. So in addition to building a structure that you would see from the street that is going to be attractive, we're also improving the lot coverage and drainage of the building. On the bottom of this sheet, we have a floor plan. This is going to be actually a 3-car garage. On one side of the garage is going to have a lift, and it will be open for the full height of the garage, so that this beautiful car can be stored when not in use. Under the lift would be the day-to-day car, and then to the other side is a smaller car, and we propose to have storage above. And one of the reasons that I, in addition to showing you this beautiful car, is that we want to have this garage conditioned. This garage is going to hold storage, but it's also going to hold this antique car. And in the humidity around Cape May, I think we're all aware, we don't want mold, we don't want dry rot. We need to condition the garage. So the floor plan indicates 2 garage doors that are going to mimic a carriage door, where they will have top motors that will pivot the doors out. These are not going to be your traditional roll-up garage doors. These are going to be custom wood doors. If we go to the next sheet, A2.0, you can, if you look at the first drawing on the left, you see the elevation of the garage, which is the same as the rendering. So this is what you'll see looking down from the street, would be this garage. And I did a lot of driving around Cape May and found a couple of inspiration garages. This house was built in the 1920s. It's sort of a 4-square house. It may be considered arts and crafts, but there was very little that we could mimic other than some of the siding, I felt, for a garage. So I thought to make it more look like a carriage house than an actual garage. And the other elevations go into one side where we have a glass door that leads out to the backyard. We have a man door on the other side. And then you can see at the bottom, right, the section through the garage. I know people get a little bit uptight when there's a 2-story garage. You're not going to have great headroom in here, but you will have a stair that will lead you up to storage. And then the other side of the garage has the lift for the 2 cars. Now I'll go through the booklet. I'm not sure that we need to go through every page, but I wanted to point out a few pages. For example, on page 13, we see the photograph of the house, and you can clearly see all of the brick concrete pavers that are in front of the house. That will be removed. We will have the brick ribbon, and we will put a regular concrete sidewalk in front of the house. The inspiration is sort of twofold. And that would be on a page, oh, well, I mean, maybe we want to look at the streetscape, which is on page 15. There's sort of a jumble of houses, some of which are not historic. There's across the street a big Victorian that's being restored, and right next to their house is the motel, the Driftwood. So this house is sort of the, in addition to the big Victorian, the two big Victorians, is one of the oldest on the block. Then if we go to page 16, after looking at other garages around, trying to make this garage match or feel a part of the building, there are two things. Well, the garage on the lower left, I just love this garage. It's on Madison, and it was sort of influenced me because even though it's a new garage, it really has a nice attention to detail. And that's something that I wanted to mimic in the new garage, is really good details. Nice roof gable with trim, a beautiful garage door, nice carriage lights. We're not doing the V-shaped window, but the essence of that garage is what I was hoping that we could obtain in this new design. Also, when I went around looking at the house, there wasn't much, again, that I felt I could mimic other than maybe the siding for the pop-out window, the fish scale siding, and any windows that would go in with the 9/1. We would use those windows in the new garage. So if we went to page 20, this is something that I picked up off the web, but again, I want to stress the details. This isn't just going to be slapped together. We're going to work with the builder so that we get some really nice eaves that return. We have the detail of sort of a nice corner piece on the garage. And then finally, if we look at the last page, which is 22, that sort of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. We're having the lift, double car, and then the other car on the other side. The materials that we're proposing would be hardy board siding, Anderson 400 series window, which is not a wood window. Hardy board is a cementitious board, asphaltic roofing, AZAC trim, and then the real big expense is going to be the custom wood doors that will open out. And I thought a little cupola would add a little pizzazz to the garage as the one on Madison Avenue had. So I'm open to questions.
Yeah, we normally go around the room, as you know. I have some questions, though, right in the front end. Mimicking a garage in the neighborhood is interesting, but trying to pick up a detail from the house seems more important. And this has a shallow hip roof. And I'm curious as why you decided to go with a roof. It doesn't, a design characteristic you could pick up is glaring. I mean, it's this shallow hip.
Yes, it's a hip roof, and I had...
Also, the siding is clapboards, and I don't know why you wouldn't pick that up. That's a design characteristic. This is a contributing house, and the garage would certainly have mimicked the roof of the house and the siding of the house. So I'm curious as to, I appreciate picking up the doors and the way they work and is appropriate. You've been before us a lot, and you know what we're looking for, so I hesitate. I'm not being critical, but I must admit, I'm stuck on this design.
A hip roof would not allow us to get the lift into the garage. Many houses that I have worked on in Cape May City, the garages do not mimic the house. They're built at a separate time and period. Many of the houses had stables in the back, or the garages were added later on. As far as the siding, certainly clapboard siding is an option. I could not get the design to work with a hip roof.
I'm sensitive, it should be obvious, I'm sensitive to wanting to maintain a classic car. In my own situation, I have classic cars and a contributing house. And it's not possible for me to keep them on the property. And so I have garages outside of the community. So designing a historic-looking garage that is not consistent with the house so that we can maintain a car is not very appealing. It's not to me. So with that, I would suggest we go around the room and get some other opinions. But the siding would certainly have matched, and the roof line would have matched if it was going to be a carriage house instead of a garage. And then many of the carriage houses are turned into garages. But this is a contributing house in the historic district. Rather than go around the room, since we do have a busy evening, I will open it up. Anyone from the commission have additional comments?
In light of what Warren had already mentioned, on the materials list, under siding, it does indicate hardy board to match house patterns. So apparently there was consideration at one time to do that, and obviously the board and batten is a change.
Yes, well, I picked up the fish scales. I would clearly pick up the, at your suggestion, pick up clapboard siding for the rest of the garage.
And the reason why we're bringing this up on page 56 of the standards, it does say that any accessory building should be compatible with existing building in terms of materials, details, and finishes. So that's really why we're putting this up.
So as far as the siding of the house, we're certainly open to changing the siding. Making the house, making the garage have the same exact type of roof, I think is unreasonable. Because, like I said, many of these garages were built separately from the house, and a lot of time, I mean, I can come back with a list. Many of the garages do not match the house. They're just plain, simple roofs.
I think you're going to probably hear more pushback about the materials. I don't think the hardy siding is appropriate at all for the garage.
Okay.
I do think that bringing the materials to a wooden clapboard would go a long way to satisfying me. I frankly think it's a really very nice design. I'm not so concerned that it mirror the house as much as the chair seems to be. But and the other thing that influences me is it's in the back of the lot. It's way in the back of the lot. It's the least thing visible from the street. So it's really not a lot of garage that's going to get seen from the street. But I will stick to the comment about the materials. I think the hardy board's all wrong for it.
So is it the hardy board, or is it that it's board and batten as opposed to horizontal siding?
No, it's the hardy board to me.
Okay, so you would prefer that it be a wood siding?
I mean, that's my comment on this. You should go to wood. and you get the choice. I would think that the closer you came to at least, and the house is clapboard, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the closer you came to the house, the better that would be, but the material is what offends me the most. As for the rest of it, I understand the height, I understand the need to project with the mechanism to lift the car in the air, so it's, to me, it's a good use of the space, and I think you should be entitled to that.
I don't think that we would have any objection to making the garage wood-sided to match the clapboard of the existing house.
One of my reactions, similar to what Jim is mentioning, is I think we should give some credit to the property and the removal of all the pavers that are already on the ground and really kind of opening up a more, call it organic streetscape, as opposed to something that is so completely manufactured.
Yeah.
And I do think that if that's done well, similar to what Jim's talking about, and I know you talked about the landscaping, the vegetation, how you plan to make that in, I do think that will even diminish further the impact
Well,
of the garage.
right now, it looks like
back
the
of the
beginning
lot.
of a parking lot with pavers there. right?
Yeah, and
But-
this-
But as you
and the
run the
concrete at the
strips
back.
back, to me, that makes it
Yeah.
informal, residential, and brings that garage.
That we looked to satisfy with the lot coverage, and that was critical to be able to, like you say, get back and appeal the street.
Yeah.
It'll look nice.
What is the distance from the beginning of the lot to that garage? I should
Mr.
probably
Drake,
read it better.
just make sure your microphone's turned on. You can hit green button.
There you go. Thank you.
The distance is 130,
See 100 plus feet.
130 feet.
It's a long-
And also, can I point out that when you look down from the street side, you're only going to see this half of the garage because the house blocks the other half. So you're only going to see that portion of the garage.
Is that the side with the two cars in it?
What's that?
Yes. That's where the baby goes.
I do agree with the change in the siding. As I look at the front picture of it, there's no details in this that jump out that try to say phony Victorian, early colonial. You know, it's got, you know, a little cupola at the top, which lots of garages had for a little bit of airflow through the second floor, a weather vane. You know, I think it fits very well. So I agree with the people that say it's setback. I love the fact that you're getting so many of those pavers out. And I think when you look at your application, you see this very blue house and then a very yellow building in the back.
we're going blue.
Although we don't control colors, we sort of like a little coordination between the
Yeah.
two.
Periwinkle.
Blue is very hard to render, so I rendered it in yellow just so it would stand out.
Okay, so it would be color coordinated with that.
It would be color coordinated with the house, yes.
So I really don't have problem with it if we change the siding to horizontal clapboard.
I only have one more comment. On page 56 of our standards, when it talks about carriage house and accessory structures, it says windows and doors should complement the character of the existing windows and the primary building's architectural style. So I'm curious as to why the two windows above the doors have a proportion of 7-to-1 length to height ratio, which would be totally incompatible with any of the windows in the existing house. They're long horizontal windows. So why is that?
I was trying to get light, natural light into the garage.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason they're there, is just, that's what I could fit.
Yeah.
And I
You're trying
didn't
to
want it to be a blank.
You're trying to maximize the glazing area of the volume of wall that you had, right? Clearly, you were trying to augment the daylight that could penetrate deep into that space, because the higher the head, of course, the more daylight, I get all that. But that character of window is not in compliance with our standards in being a long horizontal window as opposed to maybe a series of squares or something like that. Just an alternate window configuration that speaks more the language of the house, I think, would be much more appropriate.
If your windows lined up with the garage doors below it, and you had two on one side, two on the other, that were in line with the garage doors, I think that would meet your...
That's actually exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
Got it.
Uh-huh.
So,
it'd be-
we'd line them up, and we'd line them up,
Yeah, essentially it'd be 4 windows instead of 2.
yes.
That would work just.
That would be, an easy design fix.
Thought so.
Other comments?
I will make a motion that the application be accepted for final with the addition of horizontal clapboard wood siding, still with the fish scale shingles on the front, and the windows over the garage doors be, rather than one long strip of windows, be 2 windows that match the spacing of the garage door windows.
I can second that motion.
And you just did.
I did.
Motion by Mr. Carroll, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
No, it's clear that our standards are looking for an accessory building to fit in with the primary building, and a shallow hip roof would be more appropriate. I'm sensitive to the aspiration and the need, but I don't think it's sufficient to violate our design standards, so I vote no.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes?
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson-Stredick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
That was fun. Yeah.
Right, right.
Next order of business is Lemaire Beachfront Resort, 1317 Beach Avenue, Block 1146, lots 6 through 24. This is a non-contributing reconstruct hotel wing and a rear event wing.
Good evening, Chairman and Commission members. Keith Davis, Nemat Davis and Goldstein on behalf of Addis Inc. I'm joined by George Andy to my right, who is the principal of that corporate entity. Bill McLeese is our architect. We've brought back Margaret Westfield as our historic architect, and Francesca Santoro is here as well from the applicant. This is our, I think, our third hearing with respect to this application, which involves, first, the demolition of certain structures. The commission has already acted upon those. Those have been approved, and you memorialized that resolution this evening. We're before you tonight concerning the proposed expansion of the Lemaire Hotel, and we've gone through several iterations of the architectural drawings that we've submitted. We've been to 3 informal meetings where we've presented these designs. At the last meeting, there was discussion about the loading area, which will lead from New Jersey Avenue. There's existing loading area from that street into the hotel, but with the proposal that we're presenting, we're closing off the existing access point for vehicular traffic on in New Jersey, which we mark as a benefit, and we'll get to that at site plan before the planning board. But Mr. McLeese has had an opportunity to revise the last plan with respect to the loading area, and I'd like him to walk through what we presented originally, going back to January, and what we're proposing now with the feedback that we received from the commission. So with that, do you need to plug in, Bill?
Yeah, can we connect to the screen?
While we're doing that, I would share with the commission that we've met in review, I think a couple times, but met in review last time, and the applicant has made an effort, which I think you'll see, to address some of the issues that we had brought up before. And one of the issues was a landscape plan. And I think you'll see that there's been significant change or improvement there, but
I'm glad you raised that. That was something that was missing from our initial submission. We did submit the landscape plan as part of our resubmission, and Mr. McLeese is going to present that as well.
That's correct. So actually, the landscape plan was included in the submission set. I think it was the last two sheets of the set. So you'll see that, excuse me, the layout itself. And that's more or less what's represented in the slides that we're looking at this evening. Following the landscape plan itself was actually the schedule showing the species, the quantities, and sizes. So I thought, excuse me, it would be good to, I'm sorry. I thought it would be good to kind of look at where we are, what we started with. So if I go to the first slide, this is where we started in the initial scheme in January. This was our initial submission, and in that you can see, if I kind of focus you towards the lower left of the area, you see the elevation. This approach, we were trying to kind of step back and kind of be a part of the background and not really engage on the street frontage there. And obviously, we heard your input on that and tweaked accordingly, but just a couple things to point out. You can see what the approach was initially on the hotel wing to the right on that elevation. You can see what the approach was on the loading area to the left on that elevation, a single overhead door, no real fenestration or ornament on that facade, because again, we were trying to, kind of step back and be in the background from the street frontage. Also, to point out the top right of the screen in that plan, which you looked at from January, you'll see that the loading area was actually up on the setback line. So that consequently changed after we had the benefit of your input in January, and then again in the input we received in the review meeting that we attended later in January. We came up with an alternative version, which we looked at in the February review meeting. Here we started to articulate the facade a little bit on both the hotel and on the loading wing. We stepped that loading wing back almost 20 feet further from where it originally sat, and we started to articulate the banquet space, which is some 75 plus feet, I believe, off of the property line. So working from the benefit of the feedback that we received in those review meetings in February, we then assembled the submission that we looked at last month. And in this review, in last month's hearing, you'll see that articulation really kind of came to fruition on the hotel. So we've stepped down that last piece that's closest to New Jersey Avenue. So that's three-story section there. We've stepped it in. As Mr. Becker had pointed out, we're starting to approach the dimensions and proportions of the beach house that sits there today, introduce the decks, introduce sliding doors, the columns with the decks, the bracketing, and that pent roof. To the left, at the loading area, we've split the overhead door into two doors. We introduced a lower pent roof over those doors and some fenestration with the Juliet balconies that you see in other portions of the existing property. And we felt that was something that would be important to help to tie the property together and kind of give it a little bit of a cohesive fabric to it. So we heard your input last month, and we know that there are concerns with streetscaping, there are concerns with massing, and so we're here this evening with you to talk about what we've done. So in this approach, we've refined the fenestration, so we're introducing shutters in all the locations that we can. We've introduced an additional pent roof that sits at the third floor line, and I will show what the impact of that is a little bit further in consecutive slides. But in addition to that, we've introduced a sliding gate that would be a cantilevered biparting sliding gate that sits in front of the loading area doors to try to provide an additional buffer in addition to just setting the loading area back from the street frontage. And as you'll see in consecutive slides, that sliding gate is also articulated with a trellis overhead. And what that does is allow us to continue the landscape buffer, at least in some respects, all the way across the loading drive. So as we start to review that in a little more detail. These you'll look at in the submission set. I apologize, they just are not showing clearly in these slides, but this is the approach that we've taken, and you'll see it starting with this slide in 3 dimensions. So again, you see the planting buffer, which is represented in the landscape plan in the submission. One of the things we also introduced along with the sliding gate was it seemed appropriate to extend an iron picket fence through the landscape buffer to kind of bring the language of that gate across the property. That would be a low fence. We're thinking like a 30-inch height fence, but are open to your suggestions. 3 foot seemed high to me. But in any case, you see the hotel, which is more or less as it was in the last hearing that we reviewed, and the banquet space, again, further back there with the shutters incorporated at windows. If we take a look towards the loading area, this is where I think you see the impact of what we're trying to do with that loading area. And I'll talk a little bit more about the alternative configurations that we explored there. But you can see what introducing this pent roof at the 3rd floor does. It really starts to draw a corollary between the loading area and its treatment and the hotel area and its treatment, and start to draw that dualism between the two, and obviously increase the fenestration on the loading area and brought those Juliet balconies around, so it's not a simple facade, flat wall treatment. We're trying to emphasize the volume and the massing that you see at the hotel wing at the loading wing by mimicking those dimensions and carrying that colonnade down the side of, or I'll say the west side of the loading wing. So,
Can I just interrupt?
Of course.
For a second? In front of the fence,
Yes.
it's like a platform there.
Yeah,
What-
ignore that. That's
am I-
goblins in the computer. That's not there.
Okay.
So this is a view from street level, looking at that planting buffer and the buildings. This is a view of the loading area. So again, you see that biparting fence. It's kind of framed with brick pilasters and the trellis which overarches the drive lane. The doors for the loading area we have as 2 individual doors, and the approach now is to use sectional overhead doors, which will end up being custom doors so that we have a carriage house look on them. They've been kind of configured in conjunction with the deck that you see above and the fenestration above that, so that you have that rhythm going up the building. And again, you see the columns on either side, the bracketing that is used also at the hotel wing. Mr. Becker, you pointed out in the prior hearing that you had concern with the frontage of these 2 wings together, and that they amount to some, I think, 70-ish feet from end to end. And while I understand that, and I, in some respects, I see what you're saying, that is, it is approximately a 70 or 75-foot width. I do think this perspective view is showing you what the impact of stepping that back is, and took our conversation after the hearing to note and try to create a shadow line basically between those volumes to further reinforce that. So it does have that feeling of separation between these 2 wings. So this kind of gives you a sense of what's there today, a drive lane that actually is used by Le Maire for certain deliveries. So we're not, in terms of use, not very different. You see the planting that's there. Obviously, some of this planting will be disturbed by the construction, but the intent is to maintain as much as possible. There were trees that are identified in the landscape plan, street trees, that will need to be replaced. I believe the one that we're looking at on the right is one of them, but it's their intent to replace them wherever they are in kind with mature trees. So continuing through, the fence was something, the gate was something that we talked about as a team at length. I think it's important that this provide an additional buffer and layering of space between the walkway and the pedestrian network and the building itself. I think that it's doing a good job of that. However, we recognize that there is a concern of what the loading area looks like, how is it treated, And so really, there's a question in our mind as to what a better solution would be in the board's mind. What you're looking at here is an open sliding gate. Alternatively, it could be a closed, it can have a backing behind it, so you have the articulation and the rhythm of the pickets, but still the concealing nature of a solid material behind it. That is an option that's available to us with the gate company that we're looking at, and I think I have the shop drawing here, which is included in your packet. I think our preference is that it be open. I think it gives more interest, it gives you a layering of space, and the fact of the matter is the vast majorities that are coming to this loading area are going to be done behind a closed door. It's only articulated trucks that would need to have the door open that you would see. And I believe I'll let the ownership team talk about the frequency of that, but I think we were talking about something about once a week for articulated truck delivery. So streetscape is important, and we've looked at that. And so I put this diagram together for you, and this kind of shows a composite of our site plan sitting on top of an aerial of the neighborhood. So you have Angel of the Sea to the left. You've got our property, obviously, from mid-block all the way out to the right. You have the residential properties in the residential zone at the top of the screen. The residential properties, I think we would all agree, create a pretty strong, consistent street wall. They have a pretty uniform setback there. That's not the case on our side of the street. And I actually think what we're doing with the building continues to reinforce what's happening on the street already. So you have Angel of the Sea, which is up towards the corner. Then you have a pretty deep parking lot behind Morningstar. Then you have the existing Lemaire Hotel wing projects out. And then you have Beach House that kind of sits in open space. And then there is the existing Lemaire wing and then the Lemaire parking lot. I think the proposed addition that we have here in yellow is reinforcing that streetscape pattern that's already existing in the block. And I don't think it has a negative impact on how that streetscape is viewed at all. And of course, you could see, if I just kind of drag the mouse through here, you could see where the landscape buffer is there, which exists as a red dashed line in that diagram. So we put this together, which I think is helpful. This is a drive down the street, and we tried to model.
What's on the right, Bill?
That's actually Angel of the Sea on the immediate right that you see there. And this kind of gives you a sense of what it's going to be like driving down the street post-development. So you can see here, and I'll just pause it for a minute with hopefully not messing anything up here. You can see the landscaping that's there between Angel of the Sea and Morningstar's parking lot. And if I go next slide, that's kind of what's there. I mean, there's a couple trees. There's some nice ornamental plantings at Angel of the Sea. But we're trying to stay pretty true to what's going on there. So as we go down the street, you start to experience that undulating street wall, right? So Angel of the Sea up on the sidewalk on the corner there. Then it kind of regresses back. You see a little bit of Peter Shields. You see the Morningstar there immediately next to Lemaire. And as you continue down, what you'll notice is the majority of the landscaping is on our property. The buffer is only increasing that, but that's the way it is today. The majority of the landscaping in that block is on Lemaire's property. And the only street trees on this side of the block are on Lemaire's frontage. So that's all continuing. And you can see the job that the landscaping buffer is doing, right? So the buildings are set back, they're buffered with the landscape, buffered with the trellis and with the sliding gate here. I think it makes an engaging, lush streetscape for this side of the block. And then again, we have here the existing Lemaire property with its buffer to its parking lot. So
This doesn't exactly mirror the landscape plan, correct?
it actually, I think that would crash my computer. This is as close as we could get to being representative of the
The
quantity.
landscaping plan is denser than this.
It is denser than.
Because this is not
That's
really
correct.
what,
That's correct.
I appreciate that you drove down New Jersey at 20 miles an hour, the new speed limit. But we'll get to the landscaping plan later. When you're finished, I have some questions.
So, so we've looked at the existing condition slides. I know Mr. Becker's going to ask. We did look into, we don't have to look at that right now. This slide I put in just to give you a sense of, again, streetscape. This is, this gives you a variety of site sections, right? So the top one, we're looking at the existing hotel wing at La Mer on the left, and a typical residential property on the right-hand side of the street, so you can get a sense of, this is not it's not a 50-foot right-of-way, it's a 90-foot right-of-way. So the cartway itself is approximately 55 feet. So there's a good amount of space. It has a boulevard feel to it. And I think that the approach that we're taking is appropriate for this frontage and this boulevard. So again, in the middle, you see the site section or the streetscape at the loading dock. You see at the bottom what it is at the event center with that long, deep garden area. And then, of course, we've got the hotel wing at the top on this one, and then, just for comparison, Angel of the Sea on the bottom site section here. There's been much talk about the loading area and how it functions and what could be done differently. I understand the concern, and we did look into it. I think I included a diagram in the submission, but I thought this would probably even explain it better. What you're looking at here is what we're proposing. So we basically have two doors fronting the street, and what you see there is a turn template for an articulated truck, and it basically shows that that truck can back in and turn out, and the clearances are there. It's a capable maneuver that can be done without too much, well, not really any duress given the size of the right-of-way of the street. This would be a scenario where the truck would be turning in off of New Jersey, and you'll see how the red area goes out to the left over the parking. That is the amount of space that's required for the truck to turn in and basically get square to the doors to back up. And what it shows is that area would actually sit underneath the hotel wing. So we would potentially, not potentially, in order to affect this alternative, we would lose the second floor of the hotel in that area, and as well would end up impacting parking.
Now, that's a study that's made to the western side of the property.
That's correct.
Did you consider an alternative where the servicing could be done from the eastern side?
So we did not. You can see that you may be able to make that turn with the truck. However, the impact of it on the east side would be the disruption to parking.
Well, either one is going to disrupt parking, right? Either of the
Either side.
study on the west, on the east, will also disrupt
So
parking.
the problem that I see with the east side, and I think it probably will be clear here in a minute, when this truck, so after we bring it in and you back up to what we all call the west side of the loading wing, and offloads into the building, then the movement to turn out, you will see, misses the drive. So you don't have the clearance to swing the truck out to get out entry drive.
And again, you're assuming, what, 40, 50-foot articulated trucks?
correct.
As opposed to box vans and stuff?
Box vans would probably be able to make that turn. They may need to maneuver back and forth, but certainly would probably be able to make that turn. The downside of this is this red area, as compared to what we're proposing with the loading directly off New Jersey, represents approximately 2,200 additional square feet of coverage, which puts us well into a variance at that point, which we're trying to avoid.
But there's no additional coverage if you were to do it from the east side, right?
From the east side, there would not be additional coverage. However, the truck with the height that it is, would be facing into the side of the second floor of the east.
And there's no height clearance, is that the problem?
Correct. The height clearance, I believe, that you have posted is 7'6", or maybe it's 8 feet. Right. But we need at least, we would need at least 8 feet, or I'll say, to be conservative, we need 7 feet above the tailgate of a truck, which is an additional 42 inches. So,
So a disadvantage of doing it from the east side is that you don't have the head clearance.
you don't have the head clearance from either side. I would question whether an articulated truck would be able to make the loop around in the parking lot if you did it on the east side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes some sense. It's just that not everybody takes deliveries with trailer trucks. I mean,
Yes.
we have a lot of streets in Cape May which are not negotiated by 40 and 50-foot trailers, and the merchants manage to have deliveries in smaller trucks.
Right. So, our design directive from the owner was that we would need to be able to accommodate this truck, so that's what we were.
No, and clearly, New Jersey and straight in from New Jersey is the easiest way to do that. And what it does, though, is it continues to expose a loading zone more hidden than you had before, but it continues to expose a loading zone to the streetscape in New Jersey.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of weighing that,
But it has to go somewhere.
I'm sorry?
It has to go somewhere.
Right, it could go on the east or west, but I understand that we've heard the difficulties of doing that.
So our thought was to be able to conceal as much of the deliveries as possible, like putting it behind a door in the case of a box truck. That would be more desirous than having trucks offload outside and increase the coverage and deal with the continued noise and everything else that comes with the truck deliveries. So that was our motivation to try to pursue the direction that we have it going.
And could I ask approximately, I heard 1 or 2 times a week, is that correct, in terms of the expectations you'd have for deliveries through that port?
Correct. For the articulated truck.
Yeah. And otherwise, smaller trucks would be using
would
it
be more frequent.
more frequently, because it's a lot to carry in just one truck
Correct.
for a week. Okay.
That's correct. That's how we tried to address the concerns from last month. And actually, I don't think I have the landscape plan on here, other than, I think we show it in our, we did.
Yeah, there is, to the extent that those of us who are not experts can actually fathom
So,
how effective that is.
So you can see the landscape plan shown here in the overall site plan. There's a number of larger trees that are included in it. The landscape plan is, at a minimum, I believe it's 10 feet deep. In some areas, it's almost 30 feet deep. It undulates with the species, both shrubs and understories, and then overstory trees, obviously.
Now, in this area, and of course, everyone knows the difficulty of trying to keep landscaping alive in a salt environment on the beach block and the back of the beach block. The trees that have survived along New Jersey are largely non-deciduous trees. And some of them are really mature, and they block a lot of the view of the establishment. I'm concerned that, and I don't know that I have the expertise to interpret the landscaping plan more than a layman does, but I'm concerned that what may be there may be deciduous in large proportion and expose the structure in the seasons when the leaves fall, as opposed to the evergreens.
There are both evergreens and deciduous included in it. The firm that has prepared it has done work up and down New Jersey coast for decades, so, I've worked with them before, and I trust.
The firm is Melillo and Bauer.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they have expertise, and certainly more than each of us individually have expertise. What I'm concerned about, and I think I made this point before, what I'm concerned about is the initial installation, that to us develops enough of a buffer, and I'm also concerned about the future. I'm concerned that the plan be maintained over time. I know it's difficult because of the environment, but I don't want to have a situation where we find that this is an acceptable landscaping plan, and then 5 years from now, it's not.
Well, the site, under the municipal land use law, when we get to the planning board level, there's an obligation to maintain landscaping pursuant to a maintenance guarantee for a minimum of 2 years.
Yeah, I'm interested in a lot longer than that. I'm interested in
Well, that's
perpetuity.
what the law.
No, what I'm
That's what we
interested
have to
in,
adhere to the
I think
law.
I said before, what I'm interested in is when we get a satisfactory landscaping plan here that we can approve and recommend, I'm interested in having that plan run as a covenant with the land.
That is not something that the applicant is amenable to doing.
It is something
If it
we've
comes
done
up-
before.
If it's something that comes up in, this applicant has?
I said it's something we have done as a commission before.
I'm not saying that you haven't asked for it and maybe it's been offered. I'm just saying, I don't believe this applicant.
Well, the
will
applicant
do
should
that.
understand then that that may be a condition to our approval.
I do not know that this commission has the authority to do that.
It certainly does.
Okay.
And I don't have to speak to that, but our council can speak to it.
Yeah, I think the board, certainly, the appearance of the yards, landscaping is a streetscape item. It's in the standards. So to the extent that there is a condition necessary to secure the appearance of the streetscape, I think that's a reasonable condition.
A condition, I think, would be amenable. That was not the comment. The comment was a covenant.
But that's an enforcement mechanism for the
I
condition.
understand.
Well, conditions are,
They are enforceable.
well, Mr. Davis, you've been before the board where one of the conditions is that it's incorporated into a restriction that runs with the land.
I've seen that, but I've also
Approvals
seen-
run with the land.
I've also, land use approvals run with the land. And if there's a condition, it's enforceable by, if it's in the context of a site plan approval, it's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Then it's enforceable by the zoning officer of the community to enforce those terms and conditions. And that may be something that arises in the site plan approval process. We have an obligation to adhere to the landscape plan that has been presented to this commission and to the planning board. It's the same plan. I just relayed that there is a legal maintenance guarantee requirement for a minimum period of 2 years. But if there are trees that die after that 2-year period of time, does the city have enforcement abilities to require the replanting of that tree? They do. And then the applicant will have to do that.
There have been instances where covenants have been given and where they have not been adhered to, and where the alternative turns out to be a fine or a penalty. I'm not interested in fines and penalties. I'm interested in an enforceable covenant that runs with the land, that is capable of specific performance to get that landscaping plan maintained. Simple as that.
Can I clarify one thing? So is the concern buffer or what we're going to put in there?
Well, I said I don't know that I have the expertise to evaluate well your landscaping plan. I hope it's a good full one. That's what I'd expect, to create the buffer. What I'm concerned about is after we think that the buffer is satisfactory, what I'm concerned about is that there be a means to enforce it for the long term.
Our intent is to provide as much buffer as possible. We have to live with our neighbors. We're not trying to upset anybody. I don't think there's anybody that does as well of a job for.
I don't question your intention today.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, I think that this is a significant improvement. It's important to protect the residential properties on the other side of New Jersey. I think a landscaping buffer is important to do that. I think this is a major landscaping plan. It's one of the largest I've seen. And I think in order to maintain it, we need to do something more than we normally do, which is to have you promise and then worry about how we're going to enforce that promise. I'd like to have that enforcement mechanism articulated in advance. That's why I say it runs with the land, and the city has the ability to enforce it by specific performance, not by penalties, not by coming after you with citations, but to have a court order you to do that. That's what specific performance with land is about. And that's what I'm aiming at. And if it's maintained and there's never a problem, then there's never a problem with the covenant. It's just a matter of whether you attach it to the land or not, as opposed to a promise of...
I'm very familiar with look, we have
The
some
promise
few
of
blocks away.
Edis,
I'm familiar.
the promise of Edis Inc. is a corporate promise made by a limited liability institution, and a judgment against it produces whatever, damages, for example, penalties. But a covenant that runs with the land is enforceable to have things done with respect to the land, which means maintain the plan.
We've done nothing but maintain, and we promise to do that.
Then
so
you
we'll
shouldn't
do
have
that.
a
That's
problem
fine.
with a covenant.
I have no problem with that.
It is a
Okay.
burden on the chain of title.
Absolutely.
And
It's
my
inten-
legal opinion is that it extends well beyond this with all due respect.
Well, I mean, we-
hear your
we-
concerns.
we can
It
differ.
extends beyond this commission's powers.
Well,
If
we-
you want to make that recommendation to the planning board, and we discuss that in the context of a planning board site plan approval, we will do that. We haven't even had a hearing.
I'm only one commissioner here, and my colleagues will determine what they intend to articulate for their conditions for approval. I assume we want to move this application along, because it's our purpose to try and get the best possible solution. But my personal view is it needs teeth to be enforced. And I may be just one person out of all of our commissioners who are saying that, but that's my point of view.
Understood. Heard from
Okay,
you.
right.
You know my opinion, and we'll hear from everybody else.
I just wanted to have one reminder regarding the trees, is that one of the commissioners brought up at the last meeting, and I believe you accepted it, was that any trees planted would be full-size specimen mature trees, as opposed to like seedlings.
So I believe the
I think
height
that's reflected.
Yeah,
in the
so.
schedule.
is shown
right,
on the
So
plan.
the screening begins immediately upon
Yes.
planting. Okay.
And I wish, Jake, that I had the ability to actually figure that out. The pictures look really good, right?
Bill,
Yes.
thank you for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
You made it very clear. Visuals are comprehensible and depict, I think, a reasonable sense of the reality of what it'll be. You've also gone to great lengths. At least, this is now, I think, the fifth iteration of this I've seen, to reduce the scale not only of that 70-foot width by setting it back, but it's the vertical dimension that you've also addressed. So the scale and the mass of that wall at the street, from my perspective, has been significantly mitigated. I only have one question.
Yes.
You showed us turning radii and required clearances for a 40 to 50-foot articulated truck. Is that correct?
Correct.
So my question is this: why then is the loading dock only 34 feet deep clear inside, meaning you could only fit a 30-foot truck inside of the service area?
The service area, the actual enclosed area
Yes.
is sized for a 36-foot, well, 35-foot truck. So that's the way it's been sized.
So what that means then is those deliveries of the 40 and 50-foot articulated trucks, the cab of the truck will actually be sitting outside of
That's correct.
the loading dock.
That's correct.
So that's a totally different understanding than what I had before, whereby the argument was that all the loading would be behind closed doors. So I'm very surprised by that.
So I thought we were clear with that all along, but we figured the frequency with that articulated truck was such that it's not easy to accommodate that within the footprint of the building and accommodate everything else that needs to fit within a realistic program for the property. So for the frequency of those trucks, we felt it was a reasonable trade-off that 1 day a week that the truck comes, it's going to sit out for whatever the length of time it is for it to unload. Now it's sitting out behind a biparting gate, but the vast majority of those deliveries are going to be behind the doors.
So, just so I'm understanding.
Yep.
That means that there are significantly more deliveries at what kind of frequency of, let's say, 34, 35-foot trucks, which I don't think will fit in the garage, but that's okay. Let's just, for argument's sake, how often would those
An answer,
35?
1 to 2.
One to two, yeah. We
1 to
don't-
2?
Yeah, correct.
Per day?
No.
Per week.
Well, then, this is why I'm so confused. Because all of the maneuverability diagrams were based upon, and your argument, actually, is fueled by the allowance for clearances of a 40 to 50-foot articulated truck. Now I'm hearing, though, that your deliveries are once a week by 30 to 40-foot trucks. Actually, it has to be less than 40, because the garage will only accommodate, at most, 34 feet, based upon the dimensions that I'm scaling from your drawings. So now I'm still confused. Why then are we seeing an argument for accommodating a 40 to 50-foot articulated truck when you can't accommodate that within the delivery garage? I'm very confused.
So if I can go to, so our design directive has been to accommodate the deliveries that are coming to the property. So that meant 30 to 30, well, we used the 35-foot truck that we were planning with. So this is designed so that a 35-foot truck can fit inside the loading area. You can close the door, you can offload it.
So the truck whose turning radius is depicted there appears to me to be.
That is
50 foot.
that is a articulated truck.
Correct.
That's bigger than a 35.
Correct. So you based all of your clearances and your red T.
The
turn
maneuvering
diagram
space
on
is
it.
based off of the biggest truck.
That's why I'm confused. Why would you do that if you can only accommodate a 34-foot truck?
You can still accommodate the larger
Well, it just proves that the nose of the truck sticks out into New Jersey Avenue. That's what it proves.
It doesn't stick.
It proves it sticks out past the gate.
It sticks out behind, it sticks out beyond the closing doors.
Behind the
Which
closing
up
doors,
until
not
now-
beyond the
Up
fine.
until now, my understanding was, and maybe I just misinterpreted what you were telling us, that all the deliveries, once the truck pulls in behind the gate and into the garage, the door closes, the truck is no longer visible from the street.
For the majority of the deliveries, but not all the deliveries.
Well, but then now I'm more confused because I asked about that, and you said you're only going to have one or so deliveries a week.
Two with the larger trucks.
And how many, and I asked that specifically, how many of the smaller trucks, how often is that delivery?
You get them all the time on the side, though, but you only need, the drive aisle that we're talking about,
Yeah.
you need 2 deliveries per week for
Yeah.
the larger trucks.
What about the regular trucks that'll actually fit in the garage? How often does that happen?
Regular box trucks?
Yeah.
They go right in. And then it's closed.
How often? That was my
I
question.
mean,
Daily?
It could be.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
those of us who've seen Lemaire in action see trucks on and off. I mean, it's a business with a lot of trucks.
Essentially, that leads me to my final sort of statement. I think I've asked enough questions. I now understand that I was misinterpreting, and I think that maybe what was presented here is questionable. On page 52 of our standards, explicitly states garage doors are not appropriate when visible directly from public rights-of-way. So, I understand all the design restraints. Design is a tricky thing, right? You're always managing restraints and activating forces. It occurs to me that if one took upon oneself to believe that this statement in our standards was as irrefutable as gravity, how would you design it? In other words, this cannot be violated. What would that look like? And it occurs to me that that might be a really cool design challenge.
A solid gate in front of it.
Well, that's, I think, what they're presenting.
That was an alternative that we
Correct.
looked at.
Yep. Got it. Okay, thank you.
And I think your testimony was, we leave that to the board. Does the board prefer a solid gate as opposed to a gate that we prefer, that provides openness? We defer to the commission on that.
We have bogged down here on one aspect that's sort of half ours, but a little bit more planning board when it comes to moving vehicles around. That's in their interpretation, and if they wanted to put limitations on that, I think they could. My experience in boards over the years is one, special arrangements are made. We'll let you do this, but we're going to say that in the future, you can't ever change that. And the enforcement on those things, and I've seen it from properties I've even owned, that it's pretty much forgotten when those plans go up on the dusty shelf, and unless some neighbor really gets upset and drags them back out, there's not an ongoing enforcement. I think our board and other boards have also looked at the track record of applicants, and I have to say, Gus Sandy and his family have always had some of the absolute best landscaping of any hotel in town, and I would imagine that that would be kept up. So I think that goes into my field for giving an approval on it. And if the planning board gets as upset as some of us are about the movement of the trucks there, that could be changed. When I look at streets in town that have many restaurants on them, Jackson, Columbia, Hughes Street, the biggest Cisco trucks in the world are coming up our streets, stopping, and rarely staying more than 15 minutes at the most to, do their unloading. So I don't think,
Well, it would be unusual for a lot of trucks to be on New Jersey. It's not a commercial zone. It's a residential zone. And Lemaire's trucks are often on Pittsburgh, which is a commercial thoroughfare. So there are going to be more trucks on New Jersey because there's a big new event center, and there's going to be more trucks there. My concern has really never been with respect to the traffic flow, and the neighbors certainly have the ability to take their views elsewhere. It has been with respect to the derogation of the streetscape that's posed by the north-facing loading zone. And my hope was that it could be designed to face to the east. I don't see it going to the west, given the desire to have the landscaping buffer. It seems like that is not a practical thing to do without disassembling the existing hotel, if I'm understanding correctly. And that is why I can reconcile myself to a New Jersey-facing entrance, provided it's well enough masked. And that's why I focus so heavily on the landscaping plan. And while it may be that that Lemaire has a reputation for great landscaping, I'd like that to be something that goes on as long as it has to protect the people on the north side of New Jersey.
I don't think you could make that work.
Oh, I think you can. And that's why I would insist that it run with the land. And that we be enforceable by some body in this city, either the Shade Tree Commission or the Historic Preservation Commission. That would be my view.
Well,
And I'm not derogating the current
absolutely
plan.
doesn't exist, and even what we do have in the way of codes in the town are very, very difficult. I know what they go through when there's a code violation, and all the work that's, it's.
Tom, I'm not addressing the probability that somebody's going to make a complaint. What I'm addressing is the enforcement mechanism when that complaint is made. We have seen time and time again that enforcement, if it takes place, doesn't necessarily produce an adequate remedy. And that's what I'm saying here. A landscaping plan which fails to be carried forward needs an adequate remedy. I don't want to say it anymore.
I have a follow-up comment to that, and it's just a reminder of where we are in the process right now. Procedurally, you guys, the Lemaire, are here for conceptual approval, right? Because you're going to go to the planning board.
That's right.
And you're trying to flush out the HPC's comments, which, by the way, will be communicated to the planning board in writing. They know that, the board knows that now. That's part of our process in 2024, is that they're going to get a document from us with, in black and white, what our concerns are, provided approval is given. And landscaping is 100% going to be part of their discussion as well. They have to provide a landscaping plan. This is a preview of what you're presenting to the planning board. Is that correct, Mr. Davis?
That is correct. I
Okay.
believe our landscape
is
plan
what
is
was
already on
submitted.
file.
Okay.
Planning board has it.
That, in our code, that is part of what they consider, and it's going to be part of their presentation, and the planning board's going to have the opportunity to impose conditions. My concern right now is not the legality of imposing a condition, it's just where we are in the process right now. So what I would suggest, if this landscaping, I've heard this since the first time this application started, that the way that this appears on New Jersey Avenue, it provides a buffer, an interruption to the commercial forward aspects of the site versus the residential in that area. And that's why I think this landscaping is so important and to preserve it. That makes a lot of sense, and that is, and the idea that would continue and there would be a mechanism for enforcement. There are mechanisms outside of the HPC right now, but what the HPC can do and what I would recommend, if that's a concern, is to include that as part of the recommendation to the planning board, that if this board were to approve in conceptual, that the main focus of that was that this be preserved in some way and that the landscaping is an essential part of any approval that would be offered by the HPC at this level. It's not the legality of the condition, it's just where we are in the process, Mr. Testa. So I agree that I think there's actually a lot of authority for what a board can put out there to
Right,
preserve.
and I don't think this is the time to test that either. I think
Right.
we're at conceptual approval here. The applicant should have the opportunity to go forward. If we can couch the way it can go forward, that would be fine. But I just wanted to have it clear that, that to me, landscaping is absolutely right now the key to the successful buffer.
And
between
there's
the-
some overlap between the HPC and the planning board on that. The HPC considers landscaping, the planning board considers it as well as the zoning board. I just think that procedurally, we can put those concerns face forward in the writing that ends up going to the planning board if we get there.
I will make a motion that we offer conceptual approval, expressing to the planning board our concerns about a landscaping plan that is assured to be lasting more than the required 2 years, approved by the planning board.
Well,
Second.
I certainly agree that there should be conditions and recommendations, as council has stated. I'm not sure I would write them exactly like that, but I will leave it to the, to the report writer.
Well, it seemed like the landscaping was the only real
But-
issue that we were.
Well, I think we're also coming back to how to best shield those doors from New Jersey Avenue. There's been a proposal for a couple of kinds of gates. I think we're at the point where it appears that there has to be a New Jersey entrance for the loading zone, absent removing parts of the building, which can't be done. So we have a loading zone in facing New Jersey, and the question is how to now have the best buffer and barrier from the street.
We should also comment about whether we want to have a solid gate or
Exactly.
I will add to my
And-
motion that we approve it with the white iron gate rather than a solid gate.
I think a solid gate,
Vote on that.
it's the same gate, but it's back, would buffer the.
Yeah, I mean, the gates that were shown show a very pretty see-through arrangement where I can see the doors. I don't want to see the doors. I don't think the neighbors want to see the doors. I think they want to see a barrier there and plenty of landscaping around it. So maybe a little premature to,
Well, I just don't like solid barriers on
Yeah.
sidewalks. I think
Well,
sidewalks in Cape May, the whole idea
it's-
is you're seeing nice things inside through
It-
the landscape.
it's a solid gate that would be shielding loading dock doors.
Although the gate is back 20 feet from the sidewalk.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I'd like it to be a surprise what's on the other side of those doors and not to look through them and see the loading dock.
Why don't we leave that for our final approval then?
Well,
When we-
fine, what I'm saying is you really shouldn't be articulating that as a condition to the conceptual approval.
Why don't,
I didn't.
You did.
I got forced into it.
Okay. All right. All right, so we have on the table a motion for conditional approval here, or conceptual approval.
what might be helpful, Jim, is since you feel so strongly about it, is you make a motion.
Well, I would make the motion that the applicant be given conceptual approval for the application as submitted with the conditions that, given the acceptance of the plan with the loading dock shown on New Jersey, that there be coverage of those doors with a solid gate, as was shown in the alternatives here. And it may be a little premature in the sense that we've talked about landscaping, we've talked about the doors. I don't know, does anybody want to talk about the rest of the,
Well, you didn't.
because my second
You didn't
piece would be,
finish the motion
second piece
yet,
would
but you
be
didn't
a
address
motion with
landscape.
respect to the landscaping plan.
Chairman, if I may, there is a motion and a second on the table, on the floor. So maybe that has to be rescinded first. I just want to make sure the process is correct.
I don't believe that
We have a
motion was
and a
ever
second on
completed.
It hasn't been,
That motion wasn't
hasn't been
completed.
voted on.
It was seconded by Ms. Pasagno.
I did.
Fine, so withdraw it.
Can I make a suggestion on that motion, just the framing of it? On the landscaping element, I think, is it the board's intention that the landscaping be preserved to the fullest extent of the law?
I think it's beyond that.
Well,
Well, I can't go much farther than the fullest extent of the
Well,
law.
we talked about the 2 years, and we talked about,
Well, what I'm saying is, that's the minimum. that may be the minimum here. There may be some maintenance or performance guarantee issues. What I'm saying is, and I said this earlier, the flexibility to impose reasonable conditions to assure that the basis for approval is secured and reinforced. I'm saying that it could go beyond that. So what I'm saying, for purposes of tonight, conceptual only, getting to the planning board stage and knowing that this applicant's going to have to come back for final, what if we just frame it as to the landscaping should be preserved to the fullest extent permitted by law? And
I will add that to my motion. The wording that you're giving, I'll change the second part of my motion.
Mr. Davis, would you object to that language?
No, to the fullest extent of the law, no.
I'm sorry.
I agree with that.
Solicitor, could you repeat that?
The landscaping in this plan, as part of this motion.
This is a motion that everybody could like, because the fullest extent of the law is up to your view, my view.
No, it's up to the statute. It's
No,
up
no,
to
no, it's not up to just
approval.
statutes,
No,
right?
no.
Court decisions, rules, regulations, statutes, it's a whole bunch of stuff. So it's being made broadly to advance your application.
That's not why it's being made. The reason I frame that is because it sounds, I don't have the book in front of me right now. I understand the board's concern that landscape buffer should be preserved, if the fullest extent of the law may be perpetuity.
And that's what I'm shooting for. But
Right.
I grant you that your wording allows me that. And that's sort of where I'm putting my eggs.
And the motion can be, and if the law permits perpetuity, it would be perpetuity. I'm just trying to get us clear for the record, and so we can move on to the next thing. That was the purpose of that.
Can we kind of restate your motion if you want to continue to make it?
The first part of my motion was I would like to give conceptual approval to the application with the only consideration being, in the words of our solicitor, that the landscaping plan be preserved for as long as the law would allow, hopefully for
Perpetuity.
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 I hate that.
Forever, Tom, forever.
Okay.
And
Can
the
I-
gate, and let's approach the gate.
Can I second it again?
You can, but.
I second it.
But,
Wait a minute,
but
we
there's
don't
a,
have
there's a gate, there's a gate issue. There's
We don't have a gate.
there's a service entrance acceptance by us on New Jersey, but with a gate issue now. Okay, so, Tom?
And I will add to my motion that we do prefer to have a solid wood gate with designs yet to be presented to us. I think we can do better than what you were showing.
I think,
Don't think.
well, the presentation gave us an alternative to back up the gate that was presented with a solid, and I think that's what the motion should
I
reflect.
can support the solid gate.
No, you
I said, we
you said
approve a
wood
solid gate with the final design of that gate to yet to be approved.
Well, they presented it.
We've got to come back for final.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're saying you want some improvements to the gate that we showed?
I think if you want a
I heard
solid
you.
gate, I think it could be, yours sort of looked like, here's a solid gate, you're not going to like this, but I think it could be done better. Yeah, so we can get the gate that we want.
We'll address that at final.
Okay, okay. That's my motion. Poor Judy.
I'll second
It's
it.
okay. Chris, do you
For
want
the
to
third time.
just for the record, do you want to reiterate the motion for all of us before I take a roll call?
And before you take the roll call, because it's a motion, it's been made and seconded, it's still subject to some debate, I have only one last question, and it's not to the applicant. It's to my fellow commissioners. Do all of you have a good grasp on how that landscape plan really works? Have you looked at it? Are you satisfied with it?
In review, we did spend time looking at the plan, the size of the trees, and well, we're not expert
Yeah.
at that, but it goes beyond some saplings or something. It is.
Is it out of the question that we retain an independent landscaping contractor to evaluate it?
I think that's planning board.
If you have the jurisdiction to review the landscape plan and accept it, you should have the ability to ask an expert to evaluate it if you want. I just feel that what I see looks pretty good, but what I read, I can't necessarily get there by what I'm reading in terms of the species, their heights, their sizes, and their density. So I confess, I'm just not capable of getting there looking at the articulation. The pictures look really good. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that, that I failed in that respect, but
I would just add, that's a decision obviously you can make, but this application is going to be reviewed by Craig Hurlis of Palestine Associates on behalf of the planning board. He is a certified municipal engineer, he's a professional engineer, he's a professional planner. And he is going to review the landscape plan. And I'm sure those reports that he prepares can be submitted to the commission for its review. If you want, again, you didn't ask me the question, I probably should get my mouth shut.
Right.
But that's a decision you can make, of course, but you are going to have that process take place before the planning board.
it was a question I was posing to my fellow commissioners. I consider the option still open. So,
Am I to repeat the motion?
no, I think if there's no more debate on it.
Well, just so we're clear, the gate, the gate's going to be covered?
Solid.
Yeah,
Solid.
yeah.
We're approving a solid gate, the design of which has yet been approved.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a two-part motion, then the first about the landscaping, which we beat a dead horse on, and then the solid gate, with the final design to be determined.
Yeah, I don't think we're capable of beating that one any farther.
So do I-
Okay, motion by Mr. Carroll, seconded by Ms. Bisagno. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes, and particularly because all of the articulations that you've gone through thus far has shown me in particular that it's all been done in very good faith. Now that I understand that there will be a truck sticking out of those doors sometimes, which I didn't understand before, I don't want that gate to be solid, but now the truck's sticking out, I do, so I'm sure with the same intent that you had in all these iterations, that you'll come up with a great solution to also make that not visible.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes, because I believe this is the best possible compromise we can get. It serves the applicant and serves the community.
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes, and I'd like to say something. Many years ago, in what was then Victorian Village Shopping Center, in my father's office, he married Gus and Fofo Andy. And Gus did not have a ring with him, so my father lent his, and he always teased about that in years to come. But they came, and they built, and they prospered, and they have had a profound effect, your family, generationally speaking, on this town. And while I believe we must memorialize the things about the plans, I know that you are people of your word, and that will continue to try to do all the best that you can for this city. So I just wanted to say that.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick?
Yes, I approve, but I also wanted to make a comment about the frequency of the articulated trucks and the impact of articulated trucks in a residential street, because I live on Congress Street, and I have a lot of experience, even with my car being hit by one that couldn't quite make the curve. So I think that while we're spending a lot of time talking about landscaping, and whether when the trucks are there, you can see them, I think the frequency of delivery, the intensity of truck activity is also a concern that I hope the planning board will very seriously consider. So I say yes with that consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody's work on this through the informal process. Thank you.
We'll be seeing you again.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes to 8. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So try to be back here at a quarter of or just a minute past that.
Hello.
Okay. It's showing 11 minutes to 8, and we are reconvened. First item of new business, Duhane and Carroll, 921 Stockton Avenue, Block 1082, Lot 14.01. This is a contributing property, a detached garage demolition. And then following on that is the same applicant with building a contributing a property, building a new detached garage. I mention it so we don't have to be confused about what we're trying to accomplish, but we go through the 9 points of demolition first, and then we'll have a motion and a vote on whether to approve the tear down.
Okay.
So, you're up.
Do you wish for me to review the photographs prior to the 9 points of the existing garage?
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, my name is Doug Gooseman. I'm with the Highland Group, registered architect.
The 9 points
Okay.
are pretty clear.
Yes.
And so if you read the 9 points and make a brief statement about it, I think that would suffice. And if the pictures help you, that's up to you.
Okay. Well, the existing is a historic, architectural, cultural, and aesthetic significance. Based upon the property report, it identifies that this garage was constructed between 1987 and 2002. Therefore, the existing garage is framed with contemporary means and methods and exhibits no historic properties to its structure. Is the current and potential use of the purpose permitted by the chapter? The existing structure is a two-car garage and is allowed, and the proposed new structure, which is not part of this, would also serve and be permitted. It is important to the municipality and the extent to which the historic and architectural value is such that its removal would be detrimental to the integrity of the historic property or district and the public interest. I'm going to reiterate to the fact that this structure is not historic in nature, to the fact that it was constructed in the 80s to 2000s. To the extent to which it is of such old, unusual, uncommon design, craftsmanship, texture, or materials that it could not be reproduced and reproduced or could be reproduced only with great difficulty. I'm going to reiterate that this is a structure that is made of contemporary means and methods, and it could actually be reconstructed the way that it is currently done without any difficulty. To the extent which, in its retention, this would increase property values, promote business, create new positions, attract tourists, and such. This has no particular redeeming value to the public at large and towards historians and such tourist attractions, being the fact that it's a garage that is not historic in nature and was built in the 80s. The impact of its removal upon the historic district. It's a nice garage. It actually has some attractive features to it. It was constructed similar to the Dutch Revival structure that's there. However, its removal won't have any impact on the historic district to the fact that it is not historic in nature itself. The structural soundness, integrity of the building, and economical feasibility of restoring is prohibited, or rehabbing the structure as to comply with the requirements of the applicable building codes. The building is structurally sound. There is nothing that requires it to necessarily be, to have it removed because of the structure itself. There.
Thank you.
And then number 8 and 9 are non-applicable.
Right. Do I have a motion?
Second?
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes, I would just like to point out that the roof line of the garage and the house and the double windows are what you've been hearing us try to encourage tonight with all these things, to make accessory properties, conform to the design of the main house. So I'm sure, and I know you're going to do that on the new one. Thank you.
On the cover sheet, even.
And I vote yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mike.
Can I ask him? Mr. Guzman, your clients are not here tonight, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Have they authorized you to appear tonight?
They have.
Okay. Just need to make that clear for the record. And also, as a condition of any approval offered by this board, the clients would have to ratify anything that you do tonight after post-hearing.
Okay.
You have any objection to that?
I do not.
Okay. And you've been in contact with your clients
I
today?
have.
Okay, thank you.
So for the second application is for a new detached garage. The site plan on C002 illustrates where the existing garage is presently. You'll see that this is a through street to where it has frontage on both Stockton and on Kearney. The applicant essentially wants to provide more outdoor living space between the principal structure and the garage. And so essentially what we're proposing is pushing the garage, the new garage, 18 feet towards Kearney Avenue. And that is on C005, the plot plan. And I apologize for the typo. It does not say Stockton, it says Kearney on both roads.
Yeah.
So we do not have two Kearney.
Metaphysical issue there.
Yeah, we do have a Stockton on one side. So you can see the dashed line of the existing garage to be removed, and the outline of the proposed new garage. The proposed new garage is a two-car garage. Which is shown in floor plans on 006. Essentially, the layout of the first floor is for two vehicles, and then a half bay for essentially the storage of their bicycles and outdoor and activity equipment. They have access to a open attic with a open stair that leads you up to the attic space. And off that attic space is a porch that faces the interior space between the principal structure and the garage. Looking at the building exterior of the front elevation, and also I'm going to say the west elevation, the existing house has a Dutch colonial revival aesthetic. And so we have replicated that on the two end gables with the Dutch colonial. And then, difficult to see, but on the main principal structure on the side, they have 3 dormers. And of the 3 dormers they have, the center dormer is a double dormer, and the 2 dormers beside them are single dormers, and they have a crown molding creating the pediment above the dormer. Also, what you can see in the property report, there are deep eaves, and the deep eaves have a hip eave roof that goes around the perimeter of the building, and so that same detail is replicated on the 4 sides of the garage. The windows have a carriage house 2-on-3 window, which is replicated in all the double-hung windows that are portrayed. And then we have a carriage house style double door on the front. As far as the materials go, the exterior siding of the existing house is wood clapboard that is painted. The proposal here is to replicate the same profile of the wood clapboard and also have it painted the same color. Similarly, the existing house has an asphalt roof, and the intention is to have an asphalt roof that matches the existing roof as well. Existing wood trim of the house and our existing wood trim of this, meaning the corner trims at the dormers and at the corners of the house, are to be to match the existing house. And the existing house has a stucco water course, where this is proposed to have a stucco water course. There is a Tuscan columns that are on the main house that face Stockton Avenue. So the intention is to replicate the Tuscan capital on the supporting the covered deck area in the rear, and then using turned wood spindles at the deck above for the porch, and then a low seam metal seam roof on the rear deck covering. And then the intention is to have a carriage house barn door in the rear that is able to open up. So the concept is it's a rainy day, that they have the ability to go inside the garage and still be able to entertain and utilize the indoor-outdoor space. But not least, we have lantern-style light fixtures that are identified on the rear and the side entrance to the house. The windows and doors are proposed to be Marvin windows, which are an all-wood window. I think I ran out.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
How many square feet are on the second floor here?
I'm going to say it's 30 by 24. I can do the math.
Yeah,
650.
Yeah, so 700 is close enough. This, and the intent of this second floor is what?
Primarily for storage.
And so you have a balcony with spindles for
Well, I'm sure
to
that...
entertain the storage?
No, absolutely not. The intention was two things. One is we wanted to, this is going to be part of the backyard. And so we're bringing part of these metal roof and aesthetic that is on the front of the house onto the rear of this house. And I'm not naive, that yes, I'm sure at some point in time that there's going to be activities on that second floor, but the intention is that it is for storage. But it's also to bring a design aesthetic to the rear yard is the intention.
Is it heated and air conditioned?
It is not.
Is there a bathroom planned?
There is no bathroom planned.
It is actually appreciably less than 30 by 24 because there's the cutout of the open space plus the stair.
On the second floor, yes.
Second floor is
Absolutely.
And the 3 dormers.
Yes.
Yeah.
space.
But I mean, as you already indicated that, there potential may be used for entertaining. So that would be a pool house type idea or a bar in there or?
Absolutely not.
Did indicate that.
I indicated that I could see the children being able to go up there when it's raining or something to that effect, and there's, I don't know, a foosball. Yeah.
They would interact with stores,
Right.
Well, it might be a place for a party on a rainy day. Yeah,
But we
So-
recognize that no
yeah.
habitable space is permitted in this space. So that, therefore, there is no bathroom facilities. And
so it's electricity, but no plumbing
That's
and,
right.
and no, yeah, okay.
and there will not be a conditioned space either.
I'm sure you realize why those questions are
Of
being
course.
asked, because it cannot be turned into a.
It cannot be turned into an apartment or something to that effect.
Okay.
And it has absolutely no intentions of that being done.
Well, I'll go to a much smaller matter. Your garage doors appear to have the windows, one very large panel, and then a smaller panel. Whereas slightly more traditional would be windows, panel, 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 like 3 panels.
Okay.
Or have one big panel with cross-cutting supports in it, like a stick-style house, that, like the old garage has. So could you maybe do one or the other of those? So you
Yes,
don't
is
have
there a
very
preferred-
strange-looking
Is there a
large
preference of a crisscross over the equal panels?
I think the crisscross would look pretty good with that style of house.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are picking up some of the Dutch colonial, and I think that kind of garage door was pretty popular during that period.
Well,
And it's
crisscross
acceptable-
would also be consistent with the barn door.
Yes,
And it's acceptable to have the windows above.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you Douglas?
I am Douglas.
Great. So I only have 2 questions, and the first is actually for my fellow commissioners here. So one of the things that is required by our standards, when there's a front yard, there's no parking permitted in the front yard. This is an anomalous condition, because it's actually a backyard, which is a front yard on Kearney, and since there is no house back there, my question when I looked at the site today is that the adjacent house to the right, as you're facing from Kearney, has a pretty clear front edge. The one to the left is almost all the way out to the sidewalk, but the one to the right is recessed some, and I'm wondering whether this 5th parking space, is there a way to accommodate that? And would we require that to be accommodated behind the face of the adjacent property, since there's no house? This is an anomalous condition, so it's a question to you guys.
Well, I think that's going to be the occasional extra car that needs to get off the street, like we see on our streets all the time, where
Okay.
they are parked beyond where they should be parked because it's summer and it's crowded.
Yeah.
Because I can't see how many cars you're going to have to move here if you want to get.
You could do
one of
that,
these out.
but I just wanted to.
I don't think there's any way this can be construed as front yard parking. That's, I think, where you were going.
Okay,
That's,
good.
to me, it's
And
a
just-
backyard.
As far as the orientation, I mean, basically, when we were coming down, it's creating a single drive,
Yeah.
and then essentially flaring out so you could get into the second parking space.
And you can get a car parked back in there as well, by the way. So the only other question I have is, there's a note on the drawing on the site plan on HPC 005, where on the back of the existing house, it says existing steps and landing
Yes.
reconfigured. So do we have any drawings or documentation of what that will look like to ensure that it matches what's in the existing house?
No,
That would be something we would need to see.
Yes.
And simply because we have a representative of an officer who in the field verifies that what is being done in the field actually aligns with what was submitted
Mm-hmm.
and approved. We would just need to see some documentation of it.
Right, which our intention is we're going to do construction drawings upon, with hopeful consent. And then, right now, you can see it on, kind of, on the as-built here. There's a landing, you go down it's on C002,
Okay?
and it's just in plan view.
Well, the
Got it.
The
But you-
problem is, though, is that your application is marked final, and it sounds like what you're doing is looking for
Conceptual.
conceptual.
That's correct.
Oh, so it is a conceptual submission?
Well, couldn't it just be final, subject to the submission of the final construction?
I
think
would
it could
be
be.
absolutely fine with that, yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, would that be acceptable for us to approve this and approve that piece of, that small piece of the work in review?
Well, I think we should see the construction plans on this.
But we have gone final before, have we not, with the condition that full construction plans be supplied, even though they should have been supplied with a final.
Well, perhaps I'm the only,
It's a garage.
yeah, I know.
And as far as the steps go, the intention is that there are existing turn balusters on the front, and this is going to be seen from the side as being associated with the front, so that those same turn balusters are going to be utilized on that side, steps, as well as.
So that eliminates my
We
baluster
have a
question.
landscaping plan, and we have a new outdoor grill and counter.
Actually, the back of the house is really going to be somewhat reconfigured because you look at C002.
Would you turn on your mic, Kevin? Sorry.
My apologies. If you look at C002 versus C005, you can see there is some, looks like some changes being made really to the back of the house to create that landing. It comes out even to the outside of the bay there. And, you know, on C002, it doesn't come close to that. So there's a new landing that's placed in there, then the stairs. And that changes in turn that little room that's next in that has what looks like a sink and a couple of other things in it. So there is some changes to
Well,
the
that's
to the
all,
structure.
that's all existing, if I could clarify. So, yes, you are right, the landing is proposed to go from the single perpendicular window to the end of the bay window. So it's going out approximately 18 inches deeper than it currently is. And then the intention is then to do a straight run into the rear yard, where currently there's kind of an L-shaped drop-off at the bottom of the bay window. And so that was to then allow for the paver patio to be expanded.
So you're extending the deck out to the face of the bay window.
Correct.
Rotating the first run of stairs 90 degrees, so it's a single run.
So it's a single straight run.
We need to see that back.
Okay.
Because there are things that will come into play there, of course, right? What are the materials of the steps and the risers and the railings and the spindles?
Okay.
I would suggest we table this until we have a completed plan, construction plan.
Yeah, just for my own learning, would we also need to understand like the materials that are going to be used for the new pavers that are to be added? Because that, I don't see any of that in there. So there's,
Mr. Chairman, could we propose approving this as conceptual and in the final review, seeing those materials and details?
That would keep it moving. I don't think we have any big worries with this. We want it detailed.
But would the additions to the rear of the property be in this application? I don't see anything addressing that.
No,
It seems like it's there, and are we going to approve it somehow without all the plans?
The rear of the main house.
Yes.
That's why I say conceptual, based on detailing changes to the house, the landscaping, the pavers, the stairs. But Warren was saying, let's table it, and John said, why don't we give conceptual approval, knowing the applicant's going to come back with those details.
And again, the conceptual approval will be for the additions to the rear of the house as well.
Yeah.
Actually, could you give final approval for the construction of the garage, and then any changes made to the back of the house be a totally separate application?
Now, it would really be better to table this thing and just have it come back one more for final.
Just asking the question. I don't know, I don't know the process that well.
Is that a motion, Jim?
Well, no, I mean, we seem to have three alternatives. And I was just thinking, it's cited here as an application for garage, but there's other stuff going on in it. And maybe the best thing to do would be to table it and have you resubmit. We just put it into suspension, you resubmit and finalize all the other things, give us the construction drawings, and it comes out as a final approval next time you show up.
And on that, Mr. Guzman, based on the comments that you're hearing tonight, is it your intent, the applicant's intent, to sort of process all this and hopefully come back maybe next month or in a meeting in the near future to wipe out and address all of the comments and the proposed, because I didn't realize we were talking about pavers and stairs in the back either.
I mean, it just says garage, and then
Right.
we're to the back of the house.
So,
And there's landscaping. No, there's a lot here.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I would suggest that this is something that can happen at a Tuesday morning meeting to flesh out the application a little bit.
I think what we're going to do is simply make a motion to table, let him complete the application the way he wants to, and then we'll hear it again.
Yeah.
And then we'll
he
just,
has to agree on the 45 days.
I make a motion to table the application.
Wait a minute.
let him understand what he's doing.
But
So-
then I will bring construction drawings for everything. So essentially, I'm hearing, as far as the garage goes, it sounds like conceptually, we're good with the garage. And then we'll bring a set of construction drawings that will also have the civil work that identifies the walkways and the pavers and the like. as well as-
Landscaping, the
Right.
steps.
So that it is a complete application with respect to all the things you want to do.
That's correct. Which was my intention, was to get approval of the garage prior to doing the construction drawings, because I didn't want to do the construction drawings and have you come back and, well, first of all, you could have said you can't knock down the garage, right?
True, but you succeeded there.
Right, but my point is, so we have not done any construction drawings.
And you would need them for final anyway.
Correct.
Right, so why not just table now?
Yes.
And you have to agree to waive the 45 days.
I don't know what that means, so.
there's a time for decision, for the HPC to make a decision. You consent to that time period being waived so that we can come back and hear a
I waive.
complete application.
I mean, we would intend to do this promptly, but the law requires us to automatically approve it if we don't get to it. So you waive that.
I would say, too, there's an argument here that it's an incomplete application at this point, too, which voids that. But you're going to waive the time for decision with a plan to submit a complete application, come back and hear it at a subsequent meeting next month?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would move to table this application.
I would just like to make one other comment, too. I mean, I felt that the existing garage really perfectly complemented the house, and that the gable was facing the rear. You saw the gable on the main house, and by turning it around, it kind of loses that complementary aspect. And I don't know whether there would be some consideration to turn it around to where you could see the gambrel.
Apparently not enough.
Well, it would, I hear what you're saying,
I mean,
but the width of the garage, if you did the Dutch gable on that side, now it distorts the proportions of the Dutch gable, whereas compositionally it looks
widening?
better on the shorter side. And the longer side lends itself to the dormers being put into the roof, so,
My point was the existing was very nice, though.
yeah.
I don't think there's been a second to the motion to
Yes,
table.
there has.
You did, excellent.
Yes. Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes, however, I would like to just make one other comment. There appears to be a substantial tree that's being removed for this development, and I think that we would want to know why that's happening, so
Okay. And
my answer is yes.
Yeah, and I recognize that, and I was expecting that question.
Okay.
Mr. Guzman, also on that, you understand that to take that down, you'd have to go to the Shade Tree Commission as well, correct?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
FYI, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
HPC doesn't hand out tree removal permits, so you just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, and that is, there are mature trees on this lot. This happens to be kind of a sapling or something that's kind of in the way to where it's not one of the, there's a lot of really beautiful mature trees on this lot, and this is not one of those. So that's why we were considering. But if it becomes an issue, we work around it.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, Moloch, 828 Corgi Street, Block 1090, Lot 10. This is a contributing property and looking for solar panels.
Good evening,
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Commission.
You
This
are?
Zach Mullock, 828 Corgi Street. And as you probably remember, I was here last month. I was actually hoping to get both of them on for last month, not to the fault of this group at all. My contractor didn't get both applications on. But just to remind you of the last application, which was 808 Corgi Street, this is a very similar application, same contractor, same solar panels, same equipment, and actually I would argue even less intrusive, if you will. It's only solar panels on the back portion of the roof, so no solar panels can be seen from the street. Really, the biggest portion of this is really A1 to see the layout. All of the solar panels are on the back portion of the roof. None of them are on either the flat portion, well, semi-flat portion in the middle there. There's nothing on the back of the front A-frame, and of course, nothing on either of the front A-frames, either at the front of the house or to the rear of the house. The only panels are what you see on A1, on the back A-frame facing the rear of the property. So again, none of the solar panels are seen from the streetscape. And just to reiterate from what I said at the last meeting, these are solar panels that are kind of like the most efficient solar panels made today, made in America. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is because I'm not doing as many solar panels as you may do on a typical application. Don't want to do that personally. I know HPC wouldn't approve it anyway. I don't want to see the solar panels from the front of the property myself. So frankly, I'm happy to, I believe, abide by what HPC would like to see. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Your application is marked conceptual. You intend it to be final?
I would like it to be final, yes. Sorry about that. You'd think I would have learned over the years.
Yeah, after all this time, right? Which box to check?
This application sort of hints that this is where you live because it's listed as your home mailing address, 828. You're not moving to this.
No, I'm not.
Staying at 808.
Full disclosure, this was the contractor that filled this out. I live at 808 Corgi Street. This is our rental property at 828 Corgi Street. Yeah,
Okay.
yep. And no intention of moving. I get a lot of
So
trouble.
it's always good to keep the rental properties close by.
Yes, yes.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the application is submitted. It's clear that this is coverage with solar panels that are just not visible at all from the streetscape.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you.
and again, thank you for all your time and effort that you put into this. We appreciate it.
Can we go home?
Not yet. Next order of business, King's Cottage Enterprises, 9 Perry Street, Block 1034, Lot 15, key contributing, and this is HVAC condensers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Scott Thomas. I'm the property manager for Barbara Preminger at King's Cottage.
So, it's your presentation. You want to
Sure.
put mini splits on this property. This is a contributor.
Does everybody understand what a mini split is?
Yes, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, when we looked at this application, we didn't see where the line sets were going to be, how they were going to be dealt
Okay,
with.
there will be no line sets visible from the street. If you look at page 4, which gives you a picture of the building from street side there. All of the lines that are running to the units, there is a roof section about 3 feet or so where the face of the third floor comes down. They will all be recessed back there, which would be impossible to see them from street level. Those lines will run around the corner until you get to, well, if you look at page 13, you can see where I'm talking about along where that roof projects out. There is, going down the side of the building from the streetscape, you'll see a vent stack coming up. That vent stack is directly in relation to an exit, emergency exit door with a flat, slightly pitched rubber roof there. Those, they will go there and connect to a 5 receptacle outdoor product there.
That's here on page 14?
Yeah.
So one of the new units is what's being depicted here, right adjacent to that door?
Yes, sir. So that unit, the only place that could be visible from would be the property at 11 Perry Street, if you happen to be high enough up to be able to see it from there. The only place there's if you look at page 17, that'll show you an example of how that system will connect to the location that we just discussed.
And I'm sorry, on page 16, this other, that depiction, is that in the back of the house?
No, that's on the ground level.
But in the back.
In the back?
Yes, sir.
You can't see that from the street either, right?
No.
It's on the side of the house, actually.
It's
not
on a
the front.
45-degree angle from the parking lot side going towards the outdoor shower.
And this is not on your property, this is just an example of what the...
That is not on the property, no. That, I took that picture for you so you could see some reasonable,
That's actually taken of the house next door to us, where it's right on the little
actually, that one's,
platform, I guess you'd say.
that picture
Not
there
on
was from
ladders or
404 First Avenue, West Cape May.
And the intention is that the line sets, both condensate and electrical, will be handled as depicted on page 18?
Yes.
That's what that is.
The longer piece of pipe that you see going down at the bottom
Yep.
is the drainage for the moisture.
Condensate line.
Condensate line, yes.
I'm looking at what you've given us, and it looks like there's just 2 drawings of where 2 of the mini splits will be, and you're putting 9 in. You know, there's no indications where the other
Okay.
7 are going to be and
In this picture
where they're
here,
arranged.
each one of the, there's 2 of these units, okay? The one that I just explained to you that is up on the 3rd floor, and the one that he just showed us the picture of that's down on the ground level. Each one of those handles 5 mini splits.
Okay. And now, do you have, like, any Anything that will show us where on the exterior of the building where the mini-split units will be?
Mini
I know they
splits
do
go
have
in-
an external,
They go in the individual rooms.
but they do have a piece that sticks out, right?
Not really. They kind of follow the wall flush.
Okay.
Nothing's
That's where the lines are. That's all you'll see there.
correct. You'll see, actually, you'll see this.
Say more.
You have, in order for this base unit to operate the mini splits inside the rooms, it has a electrical line that goes with it, and it has a copper line that creates the heating and cooling. So that comes out of the wall, bends on a 90. And the way we're setting it up is the only place that you will see that
PVC cover.
the PVC cover would be on the back side of the building, which faces the parking lot.
Yeah, so those coils that are coming out of the back of the interior mini-split housed in a small box that's about this big and extends out from the wall maybe 3 inches or so, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's about a 3-by-3 area, yeah.
See, pictures are nice, but sometimes it's good to just have a diagram, a site plan, so you can actually see
That's
the location.
one of the issues in this application and why it's here tonight is because it couldn't be approved in review because of these line sets that are, while they're unobtrusive,
And
we
the
want
line,
to make sure that they're, all of them, every one of them is not visible from the street or the side yard.
See, and that may be so, but that doesn't prove it to us by not, it doesn't show us on a site plan of a survey or a site plan that we can actually see the angles. These are pictures that purport to show sort of where that's going to go, but you can't tell whether that's actually visible from the street.
well, there are none of them that are coming from the street because everything goes to the back of the house.
I hear you. I mean, and your testimony is to the effect that this is not visible. None of these units are visible from the streetscape.
Correct.
That's an important part.
But the lines can be very visible. If you look back at the Humphrey Hughes house that kind of went ahead with
Are we
But
explaining?
even the lines are in the rear, right? I mean,
I'm sorry?
I'm talking about a building on the corner of Ocean and Columbia. The Humphrey Hughes house went ahead and kind of ran its lines wherever it wanted to. And they still haven't gotten approval on that. We've been calling them back without giving them a final because they ran them right down the side and in. So I think our questioning is exactly where they're going to go and what they're going to look like is a very fair question on this. It's easy to say we're going to all run them back, they won't be visible from the street. But we've been burnt a few times on visibility.
What I think would be helpful is if we had even a crude picture of the property from the top, and you could show those 9 splits coming out
The 9
the
lines coming
back,
down.
out the back, and then bring it back to review. I think we could get it done in review, and then also, at that same time, when you do that picture, show where the 2 compressors are, so.
Can you,
Well,
Excuse me, and then additionally, a screening, whether it would be lattice or whatever around them, the condensers, right?
Yeah.
You would want screening around it?
That's what we generally want, yes.
Okay.
And it could be just lattice around it,
That's fine.
just to hide it a little bit.
We'll consent
Yes,
to
but
putting
it's not a
lattice
big
around
project.
anything you want, yes.
can I just ask a clarifying question here?
Yes, sir.
You have 2 exhibits, page 12 and page 11. Page 12 is like, they're both angle shots of King's Cottage, correct? One in front of 5 Perry Street and the other one in front of 11?
I think those are intended to show the streetscape.
They are.
Yeah, but
Yes,
But let me ask you this question.
yes, sir.
The mechanical equipment, the lines, they have lines that run from the condensers, right?
Yes.
And they're attached to the building and they snake around the building. Are you going to be able to see them from the front of the building?
Absolutely
He's,
not.
he's arguing that they're, all 9 are going to come out the back.
See, if they just marked it here on the
Yeah,
survey,
so if you-
I would know exactly where they're going
If you
and
come
and exactly
back-
where the lines are.
Right.
Could
No,
I,
I know, I'm just trying to confirm that from an angle, from the front, from the other angle on the front, you're saying that you can't see them from the streetscape? Okay.
it'd be impossible.
What kind?
Did you go down there?
What he said? I couldn't hear what he said.
So,
He was just asking whether the lines, whether any of them could be seen from the streetscape. And
Right.
the way that they're all running is actually impossible to do
Actually,
that.
that's what I was trying to explain a little earlier.
and-
The way the house is designed, after the front of the house, there's a little, almost like a little alleyway going into, on the side of the house. That's actually where our fire escape is located.
Right. No, I
There's
understand.
Trash
I mean-
cans back there. It's really not, you don't see it, and it's actually on the
Do-
other
does
side
it-
is the
does it
outdoor
for-
shower.
Does it for me
into
if you
the parking.
just show me where this stuff is? I might like to make a motion that we approve this, but subject to the submission for our review committee to see where the exact location of these units and lines are.
With the understanding that all of the mechanical equipment and the lines are situated in the rear, not on
Yeah.
any of the sides or visible from the public right away.
And I understand that to be his testimony.
It is.
And I guess suggestion has been lattice covers
Well,
for the
whatever,
condenser.
we always request any kind of HVAC equipment to be screened.
I'm sorry?
Generally, whenever there's any
Yeah,
kind of HVAC.
right, but
equipment-
again, this is in the back, but
If it's in the back, they're not. If it were in the back, we wouldn't
The
be
one
screening.
on the side of the house on the 3rd floor should probably be screened.
Yeah, when we see the plan, we'll know.
And that's why we want to see the plan, so we know whether
Right.
it has to be screened. So what you're saying makes sense, sounds right. But we have to have something visible that we can sign off on so that compliance officer knows exactly what we've approved, can look at the property and approve it.
I think I made a motion.
You made a motion?
I think I made a motion which would put this for final approval, subject
Chris
to.
added some wording to that.
No, I don't think so.
I almost would suggest that the applicant, if they're prepared to mark up page 11, and that can be incorporated in the motion.
Could I do that right now? It's a good thing we're both tall.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
we can get this final approval right now.
So,
But we're not going to pass on this drawing, are we?
No, but he's going to indicate where this is. We can,
I think what we can do is give conceptual approval, and then we need this drawing back with the details into review.
Yeah.
that's fine. I didn't think that we'd be
that
laboring
would be
over
like
this.
on your
It's just,
Tuesday
it's in the rear.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not in the
Okay.
rear, no. The line sets are in the rear.
I understand that, yeah.
The one compressor's up on the roof, and the other one is down.
Other one is on the ground in the rear, and then the other one's covered or at least blocked by the roof line, right? Okay. All right, so, sir, you don't have to sit there and do that right now. Conceptual, and they're going to come back?
Yes, well, yes.
Did you get a second to your motion?
I didn't, but somebody else can make the motion.
I'm sorry, I was trying to I thought I was trying to streamline this, but it got more confusing, so.
In any event, it seems like it's
I-
coming back.
How about if,
Well,
Would
it
it
was,
be
it was actually the grand
easier
final
for the board to
with the
understand?
submission of the drawing, subject to the.
for me to get an
committee.
overhead picture is,
You have it.
You just have the survey. You just
You
need-
have the survey picture.
Okay.
All we need to
just-
see is the 9 little places and the 2 units, where they are on that, looking down.
But you say the 9 places, okay? The 9
We're
places
inside.
are inside the building,
Yeah, yeah.
the line sets.
Show us the condenser units and the line set.
Right, but my point is, so all
Okay,
of the mini splits.
I understand what you're asking now.
Okay? And-
All of
and-
the mini splits will be affecting rooms in the rear of the house? No lines will be going up to
Yeah.
other mini splits towards the front, along the sides?
Well, what I tried to explain to you was when you look at the building from the streetscape, you see the 3rd floor, and then you see a roof projecting out from the 3rd floor. And it's probably like this wide, okay? Those lines will be running along the building up close to the building itself, where there's no possible way that you could see them from the street, because that's 30 feet up in the air, and unless you were in a helicopter, then you could see them.
Oh, so they're going to be hidden from the ground, they're above some sort of an
But all of which is capable of depiction on a diagram, on a picture, on a survey. I mean, again, you can do this or conceptual if you're like, I thought it was so little to be done that we could grant this final approval subject to submission of that one sheet of paper
We can do
by the review committee. So we
I'll
don't
make
have
a
to have.
motion that we approve this application as final, with the condition that a top-down view will be provided to the review committee to confirm the presentation.
It's a rare date that Warren ever makes a motion, and I will second that motion.
Do you understand, sir, what we're asking for?
Yes, absolutely.
Motion by Mr. Copeland, seconded by Mr. Testa. Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick.
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't meet tomorrow, but the following Tuesday. We just need that
Yes, sir.
form, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was a lot easier than a lot of other stuff you had to deal with.
And you made it harder by not giving us the piece of paper up front.
Sorry?
And you made it harder by not giving us the piece of paper up front.
Availability for the Cape May community, that you're so generous in your time and effort to keep us a beautiful, beautiful city. And we appreciate your historic intentions. And I do my best at the cottage to keep that up.
I've probably had
Thank you,
40
Barbara.
projects in
looks
front
great.
of historical review board.
Yeah.
Not in this situation, but, through the short term.
Great.
And this is one of the reasons I live in Cape May. I'm from Florida, and the historic value that we maintain here as a community is probably one of the more important things that I can see that New Jersey has. There was nowhere else in Jersey that I would go live. None. I'll go back to Florida
It
first.
says a lot about our state. But other than that,
Well, I mean, I don't want to see Cape May the ocean city of the South.
Yes,
Because you got boxes and it's just, not productive.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard
Thank you so very
work.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
good evening.
Good to see you, Barbara.
Next order of business. Jagged and Sin, 918 Columbia Avenue, Block 8, Block 10, excuse me, Block 1089, Lot 8. This is a non-contributing property. It's a garage deck and stairs.
Good evening, members of the board. Got a little handout I'd like to give you on behalf of the applicant, Charles Sandman. There already was a diagram that was proposed and submitted with the application. Listened to what was going on in the zoning board, as well as drove around town to take a look at all other properties in an effort to make this proposal be as compliant with the neighborhood as possible. Considering the fact that it was Yes. Oh, I will. This is Mr. Jagdishan, he is the applicant.
You have to speak into the mic, so it's recorded.
Would you like me to speak?
Please.
Dev Jagdison, owner of the house. Thanks.
Members of the board, as you're all aware, this is a non-contributing structure, which I pretty much determined from the get-go. However, we did contact the Historical Preservation Committee to confirm it, which they did. For that reason, I brought my application directly to the zoning board. And the application that was before the zoning board is for a use variance, because what we have here is we have a garage apartment that has been such since 1960, or around, long before my client came to own the property. And the reason why you have to bring a use variance is because any addition, remodeling, modification, or whatever to an existing non-conforming use requires that you get zoning board approval, so that's why we went there. What he's seeking to do is he has an existing apartment above his garage. He simply wants to put a porch around it. The garage apartment, he resides in himself. He does rent out the main property, but this property is dedicated solely for his personal use. Having said that, I'd like to have the client sworn in and get some testimony.
It's not necessary, is it?
It's not necessary, but Mr. Sandman, just procedurally, you said you went to the zoning board already? You did?
Yes, and I should have expounded on that. We went to the zoning board, and the zoning board raised some questions, and so they thought that they would like your input, and that's why we're here. Okay.
Well, it's in the historic district.
It is in a historic district, but not a non-contributing structure.
Yeah. But
They
still,
want-
anything in the historic district has to come before the HPC.
And they
we
want
did
our input
contact the
before
board,
they
and
make
they
a
did.
decision.
Excuse me?
They want our input before they make a decision on giving them the variance.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And, the issues at that time were basically the design of the rails and things like that. If you look at the original application, he put in like a Victorian-style design he wanted to put in the rails, and then he's going to testify about why I gave that handout to you with, another proposition that might be more,
So just to be clear, it's not checked on the form, at least that I have, but the applicant is planning on going back to the zoning board, so you're seeking conceptual approval.
That is
to
correct.
Go back to the zoning board. Understand that you have to come back here for final if you get through the zoning board.
That's fine.
Okay.
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 So we're marking the application conceptual.
Right.
Mr. Jagdishan, how long have you owned this property?
Since 2003.
When you bought the property, was there an existing apartment above the garage?
Yes.
And was it your understanding at the time you purchased property that the person you purchased property from was the builder? Or the owner that had the property built?
Yeah, it was the Giddings family lived there for the longest time, and Mr. Giddings built the house and the garage.
And did they indicate to you how long that apartment had been above the garage before you purchased it?
Yeah, I'm speculating just by the construction. It's been around since right after the house was built. The house, I think, was built in 1954.
Okay,
So-
now, there's a principal house on the property. How is that used?
That's, we currently rent that out.
You rent that out?
It's seasonal rental.
As a seasonal rental?
Sir, could you just speak up a little?
Sure, the applicant to speak right into the microphone.
Sure,
There you
sorry,
go.
sorry about that.
Just
I was
like you're a
looking at
radio
you
announcer.
speaking. Yeah, sorry. Yes, we currently rent that out as a seasonal property.
Okay, now the garage apartment, or the apartment above the garage, how is that used?
It was originally rented out, and about 10 years ago, we took it off the market and stopped getting a mercantile. We use it exclusively, the family.
Solely for personal use?
Yes, my wife and children.
Is it your intention from this point forward to continue to use it solely for personal use?
Correct. And the main house as well in a few years when we retire.
Okay, now if you could just explain briefly what it is you want to do with this property now.
So I own two other historic properties in town, 220 South Lafayette and 824 Stockton. When he said we were going back to the Historic Preservation Committee, I added flats on balusters on that porch, thinking that would be appropriate for you all. And, but then when I came to my property just today, and I looked around, everything, there's several new homes approved that have been built on our street, as well, on my block of Columbia, as well as across the street and whatnot. They all have essentially the white spindles. So that's why I changed it at the last minute today. I think if we do the white rails that everyone else has and has been approved on those properties, it will tie this house as well as around the surrounding houses. So every house on my block has basically the white, and there's no flats on balusters until you get up on Columbia. So that's why I changed it at the last minute.
Okay, now I submitted this photo with the application. I assume you all have that photo. I want to show you this photo. That's the way the property looks right now.
Correct.
The garage,
Correct, yeah.
okay? And what you
With the doors
intend
open,
to do
it's embarrassing.
is what we have submitted in the handout there, by adding the steps on the side to go up to the,
No.
no steps.
No, those steps are inside. There's no steps, yeah.
My next question is, how do you get to the second floor?
You come out of the second floor on the side.
Because the stairs are inside the little side door that's
Correct.
on the right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
So there won't be any constructive A stairs, it's simply a small porch that you would access from a door on the second floor so that you can get outside on the porch?
Yes, as depicted on the side elevation.
And how do you intend to use that porch?
Myself and my wife and children.
Okay.
I mean, I can explain why I want a porch, if you all want to know.
What is this picture?
That is a picture of the deck, part of the deck as proposed. And I'll have Mr. Jagged.
It's part of the deck as built. It looks like somebody got a jump on your application.
Mr. Jagdison has a friend that stays with him from time to time who's a builder. And based on his advice, Mr. Jagdison will testify, he had the idea to start this up. He's not aware of our area. He's not, I guess he's more of a handyman than a builder. Didn't realize that approvals would be needed for such a thing. As soon as the code enforcement official found out, he let Mr. Jagdison know. He stopped immediately, and we began this process.
That side area was was where the trash containers were, and it had a little roof on it, and so,
Be that as it may.
yes.
This representation here
Mhm.
does not conform to this.
Oh, yes, that's correct. It needs to be changed.
Which needs to be changed, this or this?
The existing needs to come down and be changed.
The diagram, the survey's been submitted, that's what's proposed.
Yes, the diagram.
Whatever was begun there, that's going to be changed to conform with the survey that's been submitted.
Correct. And then there's no variances required. If we take off that back and do that angle like that, then it meets all setbacks and requirements.
So are we also saying that you are eliminating this proposed cathedral railing?
Again, that was what we preferred to use, but looking at what's all the surrounding properties on my block, I think using this railing is better because it ties it with, there's 4 new houses on Columbia.
But if you had your
And-
choice, you would prefer to
Oh,
use
yeah.
the Victorian style?
Yeah, they all look like that.
Application with this as the exhibit for the railing you're seeking, right?
It's actually an alternative because.
Yes.
What's the material out of which this is made?
It looks like they're all Trex product in all the houses up and down the street.
An ASIC product.
Correct.
What are these pickets and railings and posts?
Those are all PVC as well. Yeah, that's the Trex
But if the
PVC.
board required a specific.
Yeah,
type
if you use
material,
specific material, I'd do it,
material's
yeah.
not that important.
But
Is it going to be built, I think, to get to the material side, is it going to be stick-built on site?
Yes,
So you're using AZAC or something?
correct.
So it's not a formed plastic,
No,
well, smooth plastic, real. So it's going to be stick-built.
correct,
This is going to be removed.
correct.
This shows a spindle system here that's neither this nor this. So
Like I said, that's all being removed. It has to all
just
be.
making sure.
Yes, yes, that's all
Because that's
being
not
removed.
acceptable.
So if I
And
understand.
if I didn't have a stop order, I would have taken it down already.
So if I understand, this is no longer what you propose, this is the railing shape you
We
propose.
actually leave it to the board's preference.
Yeah, I'm looking for your input, but I'm
go either
just
way.
saying right now, after reviewing all the surrounding properties, I think the spindle is better. I would
More consistent.
more consistent with the other properties, in as much as the zoning board said, bring it to the HPC for consistency and additive to the community. It seems to me on my block,
You're
on that
using
block
the
of
term
Columbia.
spindle, but this is not a spindle. So-
No, it's not. They're all flat. They're all,
So I'm,
yeah,
So they're balanced.
yeah.
so
They're all like,
this is like a 1x4 or 1x6
yeah, they all look like that.
with a space
That's
in
my
between.
neighbors. So it's going to be more matching to use that's similar to what's been approved on those new houses.
Well,
That's just my opinion, but I'll certainly, if
No,
you all
well,
say, I'll go
See,
with
when you move from this
Yeah.
or anything else, then the application also gets supported by cut sheets that would show this particular thing as opposed to the first thing we had.
Understood. All right.
But since we're here for conceptual,
Yeah,
we would certainly
understood.
come back for final on
Yeah.
that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But the zoning board was looking more towards that which contributed to and enhanced the character of the neighborhood, meaning being more consistent with what's around you. And that's why he went around and offered this, because what he had in his original proposal was different than what was around.
Yeah, I think if I was 2 more blocks up Columbia, a flat stone baluster is going to fit more in.
Yeah.
Compared to my block of Columbia.
And I'll just react, Dev. I'm familiar with your property. We're right on Corgi Street, right above. So I think what Dev is trying to do is there has been a number of new home constructions on the 900 block of Columbia that are very 2020 in their presentation, if you will. And so I think that, I don't want to speak for you, but you can tell me if I'm being wrong. His original idea was to present something that was a little bit more classic in nature, but out of respect for some of the streetscape, the current streetscape of the 900 block of Columbia Avenue has presented something that's a little bit more current as opposed to classic.
I don't disagree with it. You know, a Victorian approach to this property doesn't make sense. I'm
It
comfortable
would
with that.
stand out.
But I need detail. I'm looking at a picture and we're mixing up terms.
We certainly, I
So-
mean, if we can get approved conceptually that we can, you're okay with the porch on the second floor, then we'll come back with the details and particulars on exactly what the rails are, the materials that they're made of, and anything else that you might need to know.
I'd like to move for conceptual approval for this deck expansion.
Can I ask a clarifying question before we do? And I may be the only person that's not getting this, but you presented a front and a side, 2D. Is there an angle to this porch, this deck? Like, or is it 90 degrees around, like a 90-degree cut?
Oh, the angles depicted on the
And
overhead.
I guess my question can be illustrated by the Schaefer-Nasser plan. The grayed out portion on that plan, is that the proposed deck, the gray portion?
It shows, Chris, if you look at this one here, it shows that there's a slight cutoff there to
Correct.
avoid
We're
getting
gonna
into the
need
side setback.
They're going to need this to make the setback.
Right, correct.
And what they've built already has to be taken down because that would require an exception.
I get it. I just wanted to be clear that that's the design.
Or not
When-
necessarily, because the part that's built already only comes up to the front of the house, and looks what they're doing.
Well, there's-
Correct.
They're extending out in front and then connecting what's there to the front with a new angle. Hence, in the elevation, that's why there's two
The-
posts shown.
Correct.
Yeah.
At the second post.
Right here.
You can,
Two
correct.
posts right through all three, really, yeah.
And you are correct, because I didn't hear what you said. The grayed out portion is it. And what they're depicting underneath is what the remnant of the area that was holding the trash. So there's a boardwalk, quote, he called it a boardwalk, the engineer called it a boardwalk, underneath on the ground that trash cans sit on. And that's that extra outline you're seeing that comes outside that gray area. So the gray is the upper deck. Yep. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention something, too, that, you know, you've indicated that you're going to try to maybe come up with the cathedral railings to try to make it fit in with the Victorian, or you were going to try to match some of the new construction. But maybe what you should be doing is looking at what kind of rail system would have been in a house built in 1944 in town, and maybe use one of those houses built around the same period to show that the house was built in 1944, because that would be true to itself.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That would be pretty much the kind of railing system he's using for 1944.
Right.
I mean, look, there's another example. This is right across the street from me, like directly outside my driveway.
The report that
And
we
again,
got on
I'm due whichever railing system, but they're all Trex, PVC, square. And so, again, I'll go whichever way. It doesn't.
The style of the rail's not really.
Yeah, that's
concerning.
not-
Just wants to be able to put a porch
So,
up there.
so an AZAC railing would be okay with you?
Sure, but
And
again,
it's not real wood, but it has the best
Correct.
characteristics to appear like real wood.
Absolutely.
And paintable and all that.
Yep, exactly.
Could you consider a trash enclosure below that if the trash cans are still going to be sitting on that side of the building?
I can, but the trash, I moved to the other side anyways, so, yeah. But yes, like I said, I know all my neighbors, I've been looking at the railing, and again, I was trying to more tie it into the block, knowing, like I said, I have a property on Stockton, and I have a property on South Lafayette, and I know you want to be on the street, right? And that's the point. And so that's why I literally sent these other drawings to him at 3 o'clock. Because I said, whoa, wait a second, I'm.
The accurate plan right there.
Yes, that's the accurate plan. Correct.
No, it doesn't. It moved to the other side of the house. It
Yeah,
used
moved-
to.
yeah, I
Cut sheet,
moved,
we
I
need
moved,
some details here.
yeah.
They're only pursuing conceptual.
And, you know, in terms of granting conceptual, the concept here is to put a balcony around this, but we're sort of being asked to design the railing system. It's like, it's so conceptual, it's vaguely conceptual. I have no problem supporting an application for conceptual approval to put a balcony around this garage apartment.
Thank you.
But I mean, the choice of the railings
I
should
would
be
also,
mine.
I mean, to better satisfy the concerns of the zoning board that we left, they wanted your input as far as that what we're proposing here today would contribute and enhance the character of the neighborhood. I was hoping we could get something along those lines, because that's what they were looking for.
We have a motion made to conceptually approve the plan as presented. What is not clear is what the railing system is actually going to look like. So what we need, so we have a conceptual approval, or we will, but we need a submission, a detailed submission of what the railing system is going to look like.
Now, should we do that by way of a review? Just meet with you guys on an informal basis? Because we want to be able, we have.
What's your timing with respect to the other board? What's your timing with respect to going to the other board?
I'm sorry.
Timing of the zoning board.
The 25th
Of this month?
of this month.
If you tell me what you need, I can produce a cut sheet, and if you said AZAC, I can produce the AZAC cut sheet. If you prefer for lack of, what are they,
Well,
spindles?
that's why this
Or
is
if
so
you want
confusing.
if you tell me.
If you do AZAC, you build it on site.
Okay.
The same as wood.
Any other railing?
Stick by stick. Or you're going to buy a rail section and fit it in.
Right.
Either way, we want to know what it is.
Maybe we can do.
And I'm asking
Motion that way?
advice.
Could do
If
a
you advise.
conceptual with a recommendation as to what we
Yes.
prefer. That's what he's looking
So perhaps, let me try this, Mr. Chairman. I would offer to make a motion to approve conceptually this submission based upon a railing design consisting of 1.5-inch balusters, a bottom rail and a top rail, and the spacing be no more than 3.5 inches between those balusters to be stick-built.
That's fine.
Okay.
And I will
Those
second.
dimensions for me.
Yeah, one more time.
3 inches, 3 inches.
And I will second that motion because I think that's the recommendation, the specificity he's looking for with respect to the next step.
Can you give me those numbers again? so
Yes,
I can-
please.
Joe?
I'm going to put it in a writing that's going to get transmitted to the zoning.
How soon do you
We
do
want
that?
these rails to be bigger than
I'll do it
an inch
before the
and a
meeting.
half, don't we?
I don't want to push you.
Well, the idea is that
Okay.
I'm going to need it before. the
Okay.
15th.
So
let me try that
reiterate your
again.
spacing.
Yes.
Ready? I'll-
And I do have a question.
Well, ask
just
your
to be
question.
clear.
Please.
When you say stick-built,
Yeah.
you mean wood only?
No,
No, we
because stick
mean
built
built
can
on
be
site.
built out of AZAC as well.
Okay,
So it means
perfect.
each piece is an individual piece. You're not buying a pre-molded or prefabricated
Perfect.
railing and just plop it.
Now I absolutely understand what you want. I
Okay.
can do that.
So I'll try the motion again. Offer conceptual approval based upon a railing construction that consists of a bottom rail, a top rail, and balusters that are no smaller than 1.5 inches square, and space between them no larger than 3 inches.
And I will second that motion a second time.
Thank you, sir.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Testa. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you heard it from others. Thank you for the great work you do. Like I said, I have 2 other historic properties in this town. Appreciate it as a homeowner that you keep our standards up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ted.
you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, Hudson, 1017 New York Avenue, Block 1103, lots 50 and 51. This is a contributing property, rear addition, siding, windows, railings, roofs, and trim.
No approval.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Billy Campbell from OSK Design Partners, a company with Dan Hudson, property owner.
How are you? Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. So, kind of jump into it. So we have a rear addition. We have a shingle-style home contributing. So if you turn to the handout that I gave you, SP-1 is a site plan, and the proposed addition is highlighted in that blue color. We're within the existing footprint of the deck, so we're not going beyond that. So there's a rear deck. If you turn back to the, actually, survey plan. Turn back one sheet, you'll see the survey plan. You'll see that existing deck.
I'm sorry, I'm not, what
Oh.
page are you on here?
So I'm on page 3. I'm on page, I'm on page 4. That's the survey. That's right before.
The survey page.
Yeah, right before the site plan.
Got it.
So you can see the existing deck. And then if you turn to SP1, you see that our addition is still within that existing deck. And at the rear of the property.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Just as we start out here, is the applicant here because they're going to the zoning board? Is this conceptual, or are you?
This is
coming in-
conceptual, for conceptual review. We still have to go through zoning.
Okay,
Okay, so we're.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then if you turn to the next page, which is the first floor plan on A1-1, illustrates that under the addition, well, not under addition, part of the addition is converting that first floor deck into a screen porch. Okay? Just a portion of that deck, I should say. And then A1-2, which is the second floor, proposed second floor plan. You'll see again, in the blue, the addition there contains that additional bedroom, additional bath, and then to the left is another additional bathroom, ensuite, for that one existing bedroom.
This area here is exactly, precisely the same as what's in existence,
Yes,
the area.
the area, yes.
Yeah, that is a plan of the existing condition.
And then this is the same thing.
This is the proposed second floor plan,
Okay.
okay? And the proposed second floor plan shows the addition in the blue color versus the addition that is shown in that yellow color. So, you'll look up here. This is the existing, this is the addition. Okay. On the first floor, this is all existing. We're just converting this part to a screen porch, which is below this one.
If you flip it down, Billy, to the side elevation, it's, the lower right depicts it pretty well, I think.
I see it most clearly presented in A2-2.
A2-2 is a lot clearer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the side elevation. So what we did with the addition, we stepped in a foot from the corners of the existing contributing structure. This way, we preserve the outline, the silhouette of the existing contributing structure, as you can see here. So this is the line here of the existing. This is the addition. So we clearly keep that corner, that outside corner of the house, on both sides.
Whoops.
It's a 3.2 magnitude.
I can hold it, but I didn't do that, and point to it.
Try and rush through.
You can see it here, it's much easier.
It should be up here,
Yeah, but wait, Tom, it's much easier.
I
Look
know.
at this.
but it should be shown here.
No.
That's basically A2-2.
No,
I know you got.
Yeah, yeah,
Here.
exactly.
Take a look.
I see it, I see it.
This is existing, but then built up, and then the addition goes on top.
Right.
So it's confusing the way it was.
So if you're looking at, if you look at A dash,
That's Vanna White here.
you're looking at A-2, A2-4, you'll see it from the other side as well. You have the existing elevation above, and then you got the proposed elevation below on the same sheet. The roof ridge of the proposed is lower than the existing, trying to.
No, I understand.
Understand?
No, the A2-2 explains it.
Okay.
Unless there's questions about that part, I think we should be looking at material list. The footprint makes sense, not visible from the front.
So with the materials, we're matching exactly what is on the contributing structure. We have cedar shake, same cedar shake siding, cedar shake roofing, AZAC trim, painted AZAC trim. We have AZAC stick-built railings with a mahogany cap. So all our trim, and then our lattice would be cedar, painted cedar.
I'm
Lattice
sorry,
panels.
you're saying you have AZEC on a contributing structure?
Yeah, it was approved back in 2006. Yeah. I have the letter too, if you guys want to see that. The approval letter from HPC. I actually made that presentation back in 2006 as well, but for a different company.
You made a presentation here?
Yeah,
14 years ago?
Yeah, yeah.
I was here as
Believe it or
well.
not. Yeah, he was here as well.
I wasn't.
Thank you.
I was here too, I remember.
You remember giving him the permission to do the AZEC?
Actually, we were doing that back then. That was-
Yeah, we were one of the first houses that the HPC approved. Yeah.
I think you actually approved asphalt shingles and Trex decking, and we elected to put on cedar shake roof and E-Pay decking.
That's why we have a new standards book.
Windows are all wood Marvin, so we're just keeping with that.
That signature collection, is that vinyl clad?
No, that's all wood.
So it's primed?
You can get vinyl, but we're all wood. That's
Primed exterior?
primed, no, pre-painted exterior. Primed,
It came primed, and we field painted it, and we would do the same.
so
with
we can
this.
do the same
Yeah.
thing then.
So we'll need the cut sheet on that window.
Well,
Okay.
gave it to us.
Yeah, I gave you a cut sheet on the window.
Except there's a contradiction.
Yeah, the painted part.
On this page, you're saying wood everywhere, but you put a square around white stone aluminum, and that's why there's a big contradiction.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, it's all wood, sorry.
No, don't pass it off that quickly. If it's aluminum clad, it's not acceptable.
No, it's all wood. It's all wood.
You put it square by mistake, is what you
Yeah.
did.
One error in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cut sheets are accurate. They put a square around the aluminum, so that should be deleted.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Kevin, is your mic on?
It's on A2-2, see there's that little roof
We're
section?
keeping that because we're set, because the addition is set in a foot.
Oh, got it.
Keep the profile.
Okay, I got it. Didn't get that originally. Looked like a mistake on the schematic thing.
It would be continuing a former approval of AZAC dating to 2006. Keep same for same.
I don't, yeah, I know. I have a problem.
I'm really troubled by this.
So what we're discussing up here, just full disclosure, is there was apparently a time when AZAC was approved as a material on contributing projects, contributing properties. That is no longer the case. And that's been codified in our new standards as of September of this past year, which means that even though it wouldn't be same for same of what was done to the contributing house back in 2006, what we would require is that all of the materials that I've highlighted here on your material sheet that you say are AZAC, and this would include the trim board molding, the vented painted bead board, the window trim, and the column wrap, and the railing system, would all need to be wood.
Even though everything there is,
Correct.
Even though they're on the rear of the house.
Correct.
And you won't see it from the street.
Correct.
And it looks exactly like everything that's on that house that was previously approved by this group.
Correct. And so just to help us all understand why we don't think that's unreasonable, is that if we want to maintain the historical integrity of these structures, the original materials are what needs to be put in place. There was a mistake made at one point that allowed for some substitute material to be used on a contributing structure, but at some point that will need to be replaced as well. So why would we continue making the same mistake every time we want to make a change to that existing house or added to it? Therefore,
No, I understand your position. I understand that argument. If I were redoing the entire house, I think that would be fair. But because I'm matching, we're putting one room on this house.
correct.
And so you're going to, out on principle, you're going to stand on making me do something that doesn't match the rest of my home.
So actually, it's a little different than principle. It's actually codified in our standards. We have to abide by the standards we created.
I mean, the fact is, using the AZEC will look like wood.
Yes.
But there has been a change in the standard from the time you were permitted to use the AZEC. So using wood, which would conform with the standards, will look just like the AZEC if you paint it.
Right, which sort of proves the
illogic
nature
I
of
think
it.
there's another point, though, and most of us at least, have taken a new seminar on the use of substitute materials and when they're appropriate. So, if you had an acroteria that was exposed to a lot of weather and very hard to get to, AZEC might be appropriate for that. But when you're building, you're supposed to use wood. And the cost is not the consideration. The durability and the visibility are the consideration. So if our standards were a little less clear in 2006 and AZEC was approved, we have spent a lot of time working on clear decisions that are articulated in our design standards. And the DEP has also continued to look at things like flood, UV stress, the weather, other reasons that we might want to use a substitute material on a historic structure. And it's not for convenience, it's not for an economic reason, it's not because somebody said you could do it before. There are specific reasons, and they are practical reasons.
Well,
May I make one other point?
Certainly.
Thank you, Janice.
Sorry.
So at the end of the property report on this property, I was really intrigued by what you guys are doing, because I think it's a beautiful project, and I think you're doing it really well. It says right in the prior property report, it talks about properties contributing property, although alterations to the building's massing and features such as historic trim threaten the property's contributing status. That's why I'm putting up a flag, because it's our job as commissioners of this commission to make sure that the housing stock and the historic structures that are registered or that contribute to the historic district remain with contributing status.
Thank you for reminding us, because I knew I read it somewhere and I didn't go back and look. One of the concerns we would have with the use of AZEC under conditions where it's being prohibited is that it could further derogate the contributing status of the structure.
That's my concern. We don't want to lose this house as, or its contributing status, and it's on its way to doing that, because
Somebody caught the structure, the additions before.
I appreciate that painted wood and painted AZEC are going to look the same. We all know that painted AZEC will not rot where painted wood will rot. I care about architecture, I think, as much as you all do. You'll allow me to put an asphalt roof on, and I am paying a lot more money to put a cedar shake roof on because I think it would look better.
Yep.
Right? So we're not at odds over trying to have an aesthetically pleasing home. We're at odds over why can't I put in what you approved 14 years ago, again, especially when you can't tell the difference when it's painted and you can't see it from the street. That's all I'm
This
asking.
property report is saying that this property is threatened by virtue of that happening.
Who generates a property report?
Oh, people.
An architectural historian, and then that is approved, that report is approved by the state, and it's approved by the HPC, at least 2 members. That is then approved by city council and becomes part of the ordinance. So you have several architectural historians involved. I understand your frustration on the one hand. On the other hand, because something was done improperly, 10 years ago, doesn't mean we should continue to make.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that
You know,
logic.
and if there were a situation where we had leeway to consider trades and improvements that you made, like the cedar roof, that would count as something that was a positive thing you did.
But wasn't there, was I misunderstood, or wasn't there a home approved, this garage approved, the very first one of this evening that had AZAC trim on it that was approved?
It was-
In the historic district?
It would depend on whether the property was contributing or not.
Correct. And then in one tonight, if it was a contributing property, but the accessory building, which was a new garage,
Yeah.
that would be permitted.
You're integrating something into your contributing building. It's not an accessory piece. It's not a garage. It's not an outbuilding. It's just part of your building.
We've belabored this to some degree.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
certainly would vote to give conceptual approval to the design, and it's a really nice design. There's just nothing I would fault about that, but I would condition it on the use of acceptable materials, as noted before, which cannot include AZEC in the various things that are circled here on your material sheet. So when you would come back for final, you would revise that to show the required materials. That's where I think we are.
So, just so that I can leave feeling like.
Better than when you came in, you won't.
That'll be hard to, I suspect, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, right,
if there's a
exactly.
home that's being altered on New York Avenue today, that's a birdcage house like mine, and there's AZAC going up on it today, as when I walk down that street, that house must have been approved
It
prior to
depends on whether the
September.
house was contributing or not.
No, it is. It's the exact same
We-
house.
Doesn't mean it is.
That doesn't mean it's contributing.
It could have been bastardized in 6 ways from Sunday beforehand. It depends on the
We're
survey.
belaboring this, that your house is evaluated as contributing. That drives us to a certain set of conclusions. And we're trying to work with you, but the ordinance is clear. So,
It's just different than it was.
and each property is going to be assessed on its own. And so we can't say earlier today something was approved or not approved. I mean, this property is contributing, and if we continue to put AZAC, if we approve an addition and we continue to put AZAC on, then it will likely not be contributing at its next evaluation.
And the more non-contributing houses we get in Cape May, the less likely we will keep our National Historic Landmark status.
Gotcha.
That's why when you look around the walls here, that the work that has been done, and, it's amazing what we have saved. All these buildings were surveyed by Historic American Building Survey over 50 years ago, and every one of them is still here in Cape May, and many of them are in better shape with better uses than they had 50 years ago. So, we're all paying a little bit of a price to do everything right. Me too.
So I'll second Jim's motion.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson? Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stredick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got a tough job to do, but I was here for only 3.5 hours one night, and you're here for every month, so thank you.
Sometimes more than 3.5 hours.
Well, maybe you're not done yet. I don't know.
No, we're not.
We got to
Believe me.
hurry.
Don't we need a bathroom break?
We're not done.
Catherine, do you mind if we took a 6-minute bathroom break?
Next order of business,
Oh, look, it's
1145 Washington Street, block 1113, lot 22. This is a contributing garage demolition.
Talk fast,
I
Kathy.
have to talk really fast because it's at 10 o'clock. We all go away.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So the first thing is the garage.
Catherine, are you representing the owner?
Do you want, should I give a little background here, or should I just go to the 9 points?
Go to the 7 of the 9 points, please.
Yeah, but quickly.
Yeah.
But quickly. And did you introduce yourself to the?
Catherine Lorenz, architect. The clients are Mr. and Mrs. Oakes. They were not able to be here. Mr. Oakes had an operation, so I'm representing them today.
And they know that.
Yes, they do. They're watching us right now on
Oh.
YouTube or something.
So you're authorized to be their representative. You're authorized to be their representative.
Yes, I'm authorized to be their representative. I'm going to pass this out.
Two. Give it to Judy. Thanks. Hey.
This is, I can already tell you this.
This was a carriage house that we were renovating.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
This is going to be a problem, and I don't think we're going to be able to resolve this by 10 o'clock.
Question of the
This-
survey.
This is a historic garage that supposedly during renovation was torn down or fell down. And it's already done, and I'm not sure we want to try to deal with a situation
Well,
like this. Now, let's be candid. The idea was to repair this garage, is that true?
yes, the idea was to repair this garage.
And then the builder left his people there and left the site, and when he came back, they didn't repair it, they tore it down.
Correct.
And that's a contributing property.
Well,
There
I-
seems to be a
I-
dispute on those facts.
Well-
Survey versus assertion.
I
Seems to
have-
be a dispute on those facts. Survey, which says it is, and Catherine's assertion that it isn't.
Yeah.
Because of its age.
This garage was surveyed and was built in the early 1900s.
no, it was not. And
That's the
I am
problem.
disputing that because the
Well, then
owners,
you're going to have to get an expert.
all right, then we'll get an expert. But
So, as I said, I don't think we can deal with this before 10 o'clock. You want to say that it wasn't built in 1900s, and we have an architectural historian.
Yes.
that reviewed the facts, identified it as early 1900s, shared that with the state historic office, shared that with the city. The city, the HPC approved it, the city approved it, and became part of the ordinance. And now, you can't just come in and say, no, that's not true.
Could I
listen,
just
this,
make a question, just a statement, please? That, of course, is what the survey says, and presumptively, we follow the survey. However, we have also been in a situation where there was some ambiguity as to some date of construction in a recent application, and the applicant appeared and provided certificates and proof from city building authorities as to the actual date of construction of that property. And
Who provided it?
remember the beach house? Remember the beach house on New Jersey?
No. This property, I think I'm not making a point.
You are. You're saying we have to abide by a survey.
Yeah.
I hear you. But if the surveys can be an error, it is possible to demonstrate, if she's correct,
Yeah,
that the
so she
survey is
needs an
correct.
expert.
okay.
Or she needs proof of a different kind, right? She could prove to us, as was proved to us before, that there were city authority to build this garage, let's just say in 1965.
It
Why-
says on page 18, the contrary to the city's survey, the garage was built in 1960s.
Right.
So that's the question.
Do you have any evidence of that, Catherine?
Right.
We'll work on.
I'm trying to, but I'm not, first of all, it's a fait accompli. The garage is down, right?
Gone.
Okay, so it's been demolished. I have,
Suspiciously down.
I would-
Let's be
It's
candid with
gone.
that.
I would
mean,
take
it was torn down.
yes, it was torn down. We're following the
Absolutely.
process. During the process, I talked to the owners who had talked to the people that they bought the house from, and the people they bought the house from said they built the garage in the 1960s. It was a weekend special garage.
Let's try and sort of figure out, since you have a difference with what, we're bound, until proven otherwise, in my view, we're bound to follow the survey as presumptively correct. However, it's not conclusively correct if you can produce competent evidence that shows us the garage was not built during the historic period. And it's up to the applicant to come up with that evidence. We have seen such happen before. City records, building permits, construction records to show us that the actual date of construction. If you can do that, then what you would have proven, at least to me, is that that is a non-contributing garage. It is true, it's gone, but I feel a lot worse about destroying a contributing garage than I do about a non-contributing structure. That's the only point I'm trying to make here.
Ms. Lorenz, there was a mention here about city records of construction of the,
I did not look at city records. I didn't even think about that as being a concern. Since the building was down, our intention was to renovate the building. The subcontractors took it down. I don't know what to do, and I don't know what, even if it was a contributing building, what is the result? What does that mean? You can't build it back again.
I haven't got an answer for that.
I mean,
I really haven't, but I'm going to.
we want to rebuild it back
No, but-
in its footprint. I have to go to zoning now because the footprint is not complying.
Right, but Catherine,
I'm looking for your guidance to follow the rules and regulations.
right, but the
I'm sorry,
commission
Catherine.
might take a different view.
Do you
of
have
the-
a resolution,
Judy, can I just continue?
weren't you before us with this application for this garage before?
Yes,
And you had an approval from HBC?
yes, we
To
have,
renovate the garage?
yes, we did. We
Do you
had an
have,
approval.
do you have the date and the number of the resolution of approval for the renovation of the
I
garage?
would have to get, I'd have to get the
But
date.
it's not an application, it's an application for a new construction. The garage is gone. All I'm saying is, there may be adverse consequences for negligent or willful destruction of a contributing property. I'd like to know if that happened. If it's not a contributing property, I don't feel anywhere near as bad about that. And right now, I'm presuming it's a contributing property because that's what my survey says. So it might be a good idea for the applicant to prove the contention that it isn't contributing. Yes, ultimately, we're going to have to get to what's built there.
Okay,
Well, the other issue is
Okay.
you want to build something different than what was there. Is that correct?
no, I don't want to build what I want to build is what was approved prior to this. Prior to this, I had applied for a renovation of this carriage house. I will bring that application with me the next time. It had been approved exactly the way it is drawn now. We were going to put board and batten on it. We were going to reconstruct the doors.
Is it going to be in the same, your proposal for the new structure will be in the same location as the old structure?
Yes, we're,
Exactly the same?
right. Well, I'm going to go to zoning after this. This was the plan. Get
And-
conceptual
And the
approval.
footprint is going to be the exact same footprint?
Well, I'm going to go to zoning to see if they will allow it to be in the exact same footprint. But the exact same footprint is not complying. It's only a foot off the lot line. So then I'm still going to have to come back to you because if zoning doesn't allow me to rebuild it,
can I just make something clear for the record? Just because the garage today is gone does not mean the board has to find its way to a demolition permit. The board could review the record that Ms. Lorenz wants to put on, and if we find that, this is, all we have is the survey, and the survey indicates early 1900s, and we're not convinced it's 1960, you could vote to deny that. And that means that the applicant's in a difficult situation with a denial of a permit and a demoed building without a permit. But we can still move on to the next thing which is, what do you do now? Which is, the proposed building, notwithstanding that it was done without a permit. I just want to make that clear. The board doesn't have to find its way to a demolition permit. If you think that, you have to review it with the information that we had at the time, and assuming We're not going to punish the applicant for taking it down. Somebody else will do that if that's the case. I'm saying if that's the case, this isn't municipal court. This is HPC. We're reviewing whether things are appropriate or not. So it's fait accompli, the building's gone, but our outcome is not determined by that. We just have to review it and determine whether it's.
If you apply for the demolition of a contributing structure, that's going to be a harder road to hoe. I think this really turns on your successful prosecution of the nature of that garage. If it's contributing, then there may well be a denial of a demo permit, as council's just suggested.
That's why I suggested we might need more.
You're going to see us.
But
you're
I
gonna
never
see
got a
us-
chance to explain
If-
why I
yes,
gave.
I can explain it.
Can I
If you
explain
take a look
this?
at this structure here, the way this is put together, these are not 2x4s that would have been used in the 1960s. These are some local cut that I would suggest appears to be a 3x3 or some unique measure. It's not the kind of structure that you would have built in the 1960s, where a 2x4 is not even a 2x4. A 2x4 was 1 5/8 by 3 5/8.
I remember they were 1 3/4.
So if you look at this here, you can see this are not 2x4s that would have been used in the 1960s.
Yeah, the picture does suggest.
And the other reason I am showing this picture on Exhibit 1 is that we, the owner and myself, had every intention of reusing this building. We would not have gone through the trouble of lifting it, as you see, and pouring a new foundation if we didn't intend to repair the building. So this was not a premeditation on our part. Okay? That's all. I just want to make it clear that I'm
Catherine,
here.
I'm not suggesting that you are responsible for this building no longer in existence. I shouldn't have to tell you that. You should know that. But the fact that it is down is interesting. And it's clearly built sometime way prior to 1960. So I think from a demolition base, to go through those 9 points very quickly, and since it's a historic building, I can anticipate what the result will be. That might, in fact, eventually help you, because the whole idea is if we do it constructively, then when you go to zoning, replicating the building in the same spot, in the same size, and getting a relief on a variance, it seems to be, would be facilitated. And so I don't think it's an advantage to argue that it was built in 1960 when it clearly wasn't, but it wouldn't be an advantage anyway, unless you want to build it bigger and in a different location. So,
Catherine, was that foundation poured?
The foundation was poured before they took it down.
So there is a.
So there is a foundation there now, and there's 2 corners of a new wall built before there was a stop work order. There was no foundation on this building, it was just built on ground. There was just like a wood.
That's another confirmation.
Sill
That's
plate.
another confirmation. It's a historic building.
So, tell me what to do.
okay, how about, during this conversation, we have been able to conclude from the 9 points that the building is historic, and I would make a motion that we approve demolition.
I'll second that motion.
Have we ever approved the demolition? It's, a motion's been made, it's,
Depends on how you vote.
no, you don't have to vote. The motion's been made and seconded, so therefore it's open for debate.
Correct.
So my question is, have we ever approved the demolition of of a contributing structure?
Nor will we
No,
tonight.
but
Okay, I just asked.
Judy?
Motion by Mr. Copeland, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
No.
Mr. Carroll? Mr. Becker?
No.
Mr. Stevenson? Mr. Testa?
No.
Ms. Bisagno? Or did she depart? I'm sorry. Ms. Wilson Stridick?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Thank you.
So the demolition is not approved,
Right.
Correct.
okay?
Now what?
It's still.
I don't know. I don't know what to do now. I mean, I have
It
a,
would be the recommendation. I think we could, the HPC could provide some direction. It seems appropriate under the circumstances to rebuild this, this garage in this same location, the same size, and identical, as close as reasonable, identical to what was there.
so,
there's a
Isn't
question.
there an
Catherine,
anomaly
your-
with that,
Your
though?
design shows an additional cupola, and it looks like a
yes, a dormer.
Right.
So even though that had been approved before,
That's the anomaly.
Yeah.
we want to replicate the building that was taken down, which I have plenty of documentation. I can make it clapboard. We won't put any dormer on. We won't put any weather vane. We still have the doors because I made the contractor keep the doors. We can replicate the doors. That would be what I would bring then to the zoning board.
They keep the windows also?
I really think that would help you with the zoning board.
They loaned it, they
Yeah.
put it in a dumpster.
So the application that I put in for a new garage needs to be modified so it matches the old building exactly,
Sounds
Yes.
that way.
okay?
And the idea of that is that when you go to zoning, it would be helpful for them, I would think, to recognize that while it's new construction, it is in an unimproved location, but it may, I think, influence them.
I just don't follow. I mean, I understand that part, and it gets me, it seems to me that that's a way of looking like you're putting back exactly what fell down, knocked down,
Yeah,
destroyed.
exactly.
But
That's what
it-
happens when you tear down a
I know,
historic
but
structure.
this body has already approved renovations to that existing, renewal and renovations to that garage with different aspects to it. So does that mean the applicant then comes back later and asks for, it's like, to me, it seems incongruous to make the applicant do that twice.
Ms. Lorenz, are you saying going to the zoning board? Are you going to the zoning officer, or are you going to the zoning board with this application?
I'm going to go to, we have to apply for a zoning variance.
Okay.
Because the building
the
is a non.
location of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's non-conforming location.
So are you checked final, I think, in here?
I made a mistake, I should
No,
have
it's
said.
okay. That's
said
why I always ask, because sometimes.
Conceptual approval is what I was really looking for. So, can I,
Are the Oaks taking any legal action against this lousy contractor?
this lousy contractor has not run away. He is paying for all of this.
Okay.
So he will pay for the zoning board, attorneys, the whole, I mean, he feels responsible for this because he turned his back for 15 minutes, and
Well, that should
these
help
guys.
with the zoning board, too. That everybody's admitting fault on this, and, yeah. And you might get a free whole new garage.
Yeah, but it'll only look like the original one that was knocked down. That's my problem with this. It makes no sense to me, other than ingratiating, other than looking favorable to the zoning board, to look like you're putting back exactly what got knocked
And
down.
also to send a message to this community that, You don't start building, like the last application. You know, the gentleman had 2
Yeah,
historic
that's-
houses in Cape May, and yet he's adding a porch, you know?
Yeah,
I didn't know. You know, and
I wish there were a different way to
this is
send the
another way to
message.
get the message out, you know?
Yeah.
So could I ask the board to consider conceptual approval, and I would match the old garage, so I can go in front of the zoning board? Or is it too late? I know we only have like 7 minutes or something.
I think that's fair. I mean, we do have pictures, and
Yeah, I have pictures, I've
conceptual.
measured it, I have all the existing sizes.
But before we do that, Jim's making a pretty valid argument in my mind. And would it be your client's preference to rebuild what exactly was there, or to rebuild it in a way in the same footprint that included your modification of the dormer and the cupola?
Well,
The
we
only
know the
thing
answer
is
to that one, but that's,
That's new construction, and I think it would be inappropriate for us to approve new construction like that, and then give zoning, or look to zoning to feel like they should create a variance. The issue is, if the building had not been torn down, then it could have been modified.
Because it's pre-existing condition.
But now it's torn down, and it's new construction.
Reconstruction. I mean, it would be.
there's nothing left.
Reconstruction.
There's nothing left. It's
Something
it's
you
new.
would normally approve.
Didn't you have zoning approval to put the new foundation in its existing place?
Yes.
Ah,
it's going to have
that part of the
bigger
work got done
aspects to it.
already.
And it has encroachments on the back and the side yard, you know?
Right.
That's, you know, so
Right.
you're allowing even a bigger building to go up if you go by the new one. And-
Well, no, what happens is we get a smaller building in order to comply with the zoning variance. It's also a wood building, and I'm not sure how to make a wood building fireproof, but I'll have to, because it's,
On the belief that we cannot solve the 2 steps that I
Lot
think are
line.
necessary, I guess I'm willing to support a motion that talks about just building it back exactly the way it was with original materials.
So Warren threw a motion out that you requested that we make we
I made
give you
I made a
conceptual,
motion that we
and I will second that motion.
conceptually
Recreate
recreate the
building
existing building.
as close to character, materials, exact size as possible.
That's reasonable, right?
okay. And then I will be back.
Right.
Well, we didn't vote on it yet.
I'm sure you're going to be back a number of times.
Okay.
But-
We made it.
This is for the new detached garage, this motion, correct?
Yes.
Got it. So,
Yes.
Did you second it, John? Did someone second? Okay.
Mr. Carroll,
Tom did.
Yes.
Oh, Tom, I'm sorry. So motion by Mr. Copeland, seconded by Mr. Carroll. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson? Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do have one question, however. On the site plan, it looked like you were building a new gazebo back there, and I didn't
Yes.
see any documentation of that at all.
Well, that was approved by
Okay. In the
by
old
board
scheme?
last year. That was approved by zoning. We are building the gazebo
Okay.
and the
This is a
trellis
totally
there.
separate submission. It just happened to be on the same site plan.
Well, it was all part of one space, the garage, the new entertainment area, and the gazebo. But now it's been separated. It's 2 separate projects.
Okay.
Exactly.
But were they all in the same application?
I can't answer that question.
It's a stop work order.
But wouldn't they have to stop work on everything if it was on the same application?
I don't think it was on the same application because the garage was just a repair and the gazebo was brand new.
Yeah, we do need to find that out.
Wait, Catherine, I remember this didn't it have an awning window too, on the side of the garage? And also a dormer?
Yes, there was.
So your
dormer.
former proposal, and you got a resolution for that, are you going to, does she have to retract that formal approval from last year? Because it was modified considerably.
Carry this over.
What, anything that we did tonight overrides any prior approval.
Okay,
I mean, not in totality, but anything that we address tonight that conflicts with your prior approval, tonight overrides that. And that'll be reflected in, we can find out the resolution number and we'll confirm that. Yeah. I mean, does that make sense, Ms. Lorenz?
Yes.
Okay.
This is, that's.
New
that's-
circumstances, new work, yeah.
I don't want to leave because I usually leave before you do your vote. Did you do the vote?
No, we didn't vote.
I thought we did.
Did we?
No, we have a motion?
I just voted yes.
Yeah, we.
Okay.
I just voted yes.
All right.
If I have to vote again, I'll vote it, but I voted yes. This is indicative of 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
6
it's
minutes.
late.
Voting twice, we're not remembering what you voted on. Good night, Catherine.
Good night, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
These things happen sometimes.
I thought you looked sound asleep there.
They happen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were going to open to the public, and then it's closed. We were going to have a discussion about this material. I suggest we hold that till the next meeting.
It's pretty clear that the council will never get our recommendation about parking. This is the second, and there was a special meeting in lieu of that meeting, but I'm too tired to get into this new.
Next meeting?
The next meeting, we'll take this right up first thing.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Seconded, aye.
Thanks all. God almighty. Chris, I think it's